Ito'y tempo'y pas para itatag langit na bendisyon. Contra'y peligro na fansafuham, Diyos protehis lanwong. Contra'y peligro na fansafuham, Diyos protehis lanwong.
Good morning, Guam! And containing COVID, of course, it's the KUAM News takeover of Guam's favorite I-94. We're KUAM FM, Hagatni, Guam. Good morning.
Hafid, everybody.
Thanks for watching on our Facebook live stream, of course. That's KUAM News Facebook page. And also, we're doing the radio thing. So you call a 637-0094. I guess first news right off the bat, we'll go ahead and give you the latest information that came out from the Joint Information Center on the 5 new positive COVID-19 cases.
Right. The Department of Public Health tested 37 individuals for COVID-19 on Wednesday with conclusive results. 5 tested positive for COVID and 32 tested negative. A total of 270 tests were performed beginning on March 12th with conclusive results. To date, a total of 37 cases, again, tested positive by Public Health, and 233 cases tested negative for COVID-19, and there is 1 death. All 36 remaining cases tested by Public Health are in isolation. Additionally, Joint Region Marianas, working with Gov Guam, coordinated the transport of 4 sailors who tested positive for COVID-19 off of the USS Theodore Roosevelt to Guam. The patients are being treated at U.S. Naval Hospital and remain isolated at U.S. Naval Base Guam in accordance with CDC protocols. Again, that's 37 positive cases confirmed by Public Health, and then there's 4 positive cases from the USS Theodore Roosevelt. The government of Guam is aggressively implementing its COVID-19 response to identify and contain the transmission of COVID-19 locally. With any change in status, anticipate timely notification.
All right. So I guess it just comes down to what is timely. It's open to debate. 610, we got a big, huge show. We're going to be hearing from the FSM. Who did you get from the Federated States of Micronesia?
Johnny. He is a foreign affairs officer. We're trying to get Teresa Philippin, the consulate general, but I guess Johnny is handling all the media.
Our man Johnny.
Okay, let me just check something because Nestor just sent something in.
And we did have some new news coming out. There's I saw this on Facebook, a press conference in Los Angeles, where the mayor is threatening to cut power to businesses that are refusing to shut down during this national and local public health emergency. Interesting.
Where was this?
Los Angeles.
Wow.
Yeah, there was a press conference that's live. And then you had something that came out about, what was this, a product that U.S. EPA and Customs seized?
Right, we just got it. It's actually not seized, but we just got this minutes ago. I just got it in my email from U.S. EPA. They announced that it has prevented several shipments of an illegal health product from entering U.S. Pacific ports under federal pesticide laws. The item is called Virus Shutout. It is not registered with EPA, therefore its safety and efficacy against viruses have not been evaluated. In addition, its labeling, including directions for use, is not provided in the English language as required by law, and online advertising materials contain misleading claims about its safety and effectiveness. EPA has been working with U.S. Customs and Border Protection to deny entry to the illegal product, which is being imported from Japan and Hong Kong through U.S. ports in Honolulu and Guam. EPA and Customs will continue monitoring for products with illegal pesticidal claims. In addition, EPA has reached out to Amazon to remove the product from their online marketplace. Amazon has taken this step. Again, the U.S. EPA announcing it has prevented several shipments of an illegal health product from entering U.S. Pacific ports under federal pesticide laws. The item is called Virus Shutout. It is not registered, again, with the EPA.
All right. Hey, some of our Facebook viewers and listeners, I want to say good morning to Benjamin Abjahi from Texas. We also had Sacramento California. Where was that one here? There was a press conference. All right, Pat Calvo. Hello. Good morning from Sacramento, California. I also want to say good morning to our friend Steve Claris.
Auntie Pat.
Out in Auntie?
Yeah, I want to say, is she on island or is that Auntie? Yeah, something on. They were here for the JFK reunion.
Oh, nice.
And then it was canceled. Right.
Right. Yeah. 6:13. I want to bring our friend, former Congressman Robert Underwood, onto the show. I know, Congressman, where are you at right now?
I'm actually in Annandale. I'm in the basement of my son's home.
Are you in quarantine or something? Did your boy put you in quarantine in the basement?
Well, Narissa and I sort of got separated, and she's in Charlotte and I'm here, and we were supposed to meet up and go back to Guam, but we keep kind of moving the flight a little bit.
Right, and so I'm curious, when you come back to Guam, they're probably just going to take you guys straight to quarantine. They're going to be like, get that pesky former congressman, and they're going to put him in for 21 days.
Well, they're supposed to put me in voluntary quarantine, and I don't know whether you sign a paper or something like that. Whatever they have me sign, I'll sign.
Yeah, we don't know either, so there's a lot of confusion. Well, we were able to find out yesterday.
Of course, that one physician told me, says, when you get back, don't try to violate it because everybody knows who you are.
Right, right.
Well, the Senate and the White House, the negotiators, they reached a deal on a rescue package, I understand. Are you tracking that?
Yeah, it looks like it, and I've been watching it online, and it's a very interesting package, and there's a number of things in there I think that are of consequence. I'm not quite sure about how the details actually spell out, since I'm just looking at some general provisions. But it looks like, I think, as indicated by others, that Guam and the small territories will be included in these tax credits, and for businesses, and also in the direct payments to individuals who, if you are a taxpayer. And the provision on that looks like there's a provision in there that will cover over the expense to the government of Guam. So that's, in general, that's very good news. A little bit more cloudy or uncertain is this provision on the unemployment, and perhaps maybe Congressman Sir Nicholas or someone who is more directly involved, or maybe more directly involved, will clarify it, whether people from Guam will actually get unemployment insurance. Normally, they'll give unemployment, they'll support unemployment insurance for those states and territories who already have unemployment insurance, and Guam and CNMI do not. And so the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, I believe, do. So normally they would just get the unemployment insurance. But in this legislation, it says unemployment insurance for and to include Guam and the CNMI and American Samoa, and even the freely associated states. And that's a remarkable piece of legislative work, if that's true. Maybe that's the latest version I've seen. Maybe it's been corrected, but it would seem like uncannily generous for the U.S. government to provide unemployment insurance to the freely associated states. And so that, you might ask, I don't know, I heard you had somebody from the FAS coming on your program, so you might ask them about it.
Yeah, we're getting Johnny.
Yeah, okay. And then there's a $55 million under a Department of Interior provision that goes to the Office of Insular Affairs. It's not specified how it will be spent, but it's meant to give general support, again, to the small territories, which means it doesn't include Puerto Rico, and the freely associated states. So I don't know what the freely associated states would be getting out of that, or how that will be divided. So there'll be a lot of work, and there's going to be a lot of, I'm sure, back and forth between the governor and federal agencies, and so we'll see how it all works out. But this is, of course, a much welcome package and much needed. But it does seem to indicate that some of the things in there look fairly positive for Guam, but as always, not quite sure until the actual details come out and the bills actually pass.
Right, and yeah, I think that a lot of us, I mean, myself included, when I heard that they had reached a deal, they did a big press conference about it. And in my mind, I don't know, I kind of just jumped to that it's already been signed and passed. And so we're passing around the bill on WhatsApp last night, and I kind of caught myself and said, this hasn't even passed yet. But
Yeah.
I think when they announced it, we have a deal, right, that people kind of just jump to the next finish line.
Yeah, so, it's always a little bit of anticipatory announcement so that people won't back out.
Right.
And that looks like, but I'm sure glad that they came to something, because the streets here are empty, and traffic is very light. I haven't been out since Monday, and I did go to the Manamco hours here at the local supermarket, Harris Teeter, with my son, and so we're able to pack up on some supplies.
I was surprised we don't qualify for the Manamco hour yet, Bree.
I know. I feel like it, though. It's like,
Yeah, I know.
But, I took my son. I said, they allow you one attendant.
Bree and I are going to try and get in on maybe the junior Manamco.
Ricardo sneaked in on the attendant class, and people kind of gave each other wide berth in the market.
Right.
It's kind of interesting, but people here are very conscious of it.
Can we go back to the individual payments? What else do you know about that? Because that's kind of what people are really tuned in
right.
to.
Is it like the government pays for it locally, and then we get reimbursed?
Well, the way that the legislation reads is that the government of Guam will pay for it, because you pay your taxes through the government of Guam. And one version said $75,000 for people making less than $75,000. And I don't know whether that's been up to $90,000 or $99,000 per individual taxpayer. And so what happens with that is that there's a provision that it'll be covered over. So in other words, the government of Guam will get reimbursed for those payments and will be made whole for that. And I'm assuming, but I'm not sure, that one I could read very clearly, but I'm assuming the same would occur on any kind of tax benefit that accrues in a tax credit form to businesses in order to stay in operation. So that again would be covered over. Now that's very good, because that means that the government of Guam will be made whole for those expenditures.
And probably done some. It kind of looks like COVID-19 is going to turn into a big, huge payday for the government of Guam.
Well, it could. Of course, nobody wants this kind of situation for that. But the people that I have to congratulate Congressman Kilili Sablan, because he's been pushing for these food stamps benefits to be extended for the Northern Marianas for a long time. And in this bill, it extends it to Puerto Rico in the same way, and to the CNMI in the same way as it applies to other jurisdictions. And it's the way that provision looks is that it'll be hard to take it back out. So that's a major victory, I believe, for Congressman Sablan.
Do you see any foreseeable hiccups with the provisions regarding the unemployment insurance, considering the fact that, like you mentioned, we don't have an unemployment?
Yeah, it's not real clear, because the way it reads, it says that it includes certain jurisdictions that don't have unemployment insurance. So I'm assuming that what they're following is FEMA guidelines, even though that's kind of emergency guidelines, where you just give it to everybody who used to have a job or had a job, regardless of whether you had unemployment insurance or not. And so that's the general difference between an emergency situation and kind of an economic slowdown situation, which is just administered by the U.S. Department of Labor. But in this instance, it looks like the Department of Labor will manage it, but it might be being managed under FEMA guidelines. So I'm not really, I can't say 100% for sure on that, And then there's some discussion because the federal legislation that's passing through will give an additional $600 a week to people who over what they normally get for unemployment insurance. And normally, if you're on unemployment insurance, you get roughly 2/3 of what you normally make.
Right.
And so an additional $600 over that, it might work out that some people are actually better off now not working at all. If you're making like less than $20 an hour, and they're going to give you another $600 on top of that. But that's getting into the weeds of it.
Right.
I'm sure that the elected officials, and I'm sure the governor's team will be kind of making sure that that's clarified. And I'm not trying. I'm just speaking again. I'm just speaking off the cuff on just what I've.
You don't need to explain why you're speaking, Congressman. I mean, we bring you in for your perspective and your experience, which is definitely
right.
very, very valuable.
I just happen to have a lot of time on my hands right now.
Because you're in quarantine.
Not because I'm quarantined, because I'm here in isolation, and I don't know what the difference is between isolation and quarantine.
The amount of letters in the we don't.
That's what.
Isolation is when you are confirmed with COVID.
Right.
And quarantine is when you're hanging out for 14 days to find out whether or not
hotel.
you have
Right.
COVID.
Yeah.
In a hotel with little baby roaches in your lunch.
Okay. All right.
I know.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
He's like, okay.
I'm not going there.
I certainly respect the work that the governor and her team, and I watched Linda DeNorsi yesterday on your program, and she was very good, very informative and reassuring.
Yeah.
Which is what we need. Information reassures. It doesn't distract, and that's an important lesson. It's and I think everyone I'm sure is real information, not the other kind.
Right. Don't say fake news.
No, I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to say that.
Congressman, so yeah, we'd appreciate it if you check in maybe every couple days and let us know. We know that you always have your finger on the pulse over there, and good luck. Be safe.
Oh, I did want to ask.
Yeah, I will, and thank you very much.
I did want to ask if you had been monitoring the situation with the USS Theodore Roosevelt. I know there's some people with concerns that of the possibility that they might even bring this ship here. And I was watching a press conference on the Department of Defense, and they were talking about this, the possibility of this ship and coming or not coming to Guam, because they wouldn't specify where the sailors were going. It wasn't until we heard it from Joint Region Marianas that confirmed that they were actually the 4 sailors were actually here. But in terms of the ship actually coming into Guam, they're saying that there's no decisions that have been made, but we're taking it day by day. So I'm just wondering if you've heard anything.
Yeah, I've only watched what the local news has had to say about that, and I just I can't say for sure. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it doesn't turn into this kind of cruise liner kind of situation. But it's certainly something to monitor. I think the military would certainly be very deliberative and cautious about this rather than secretive. And I certainly hope that's the case.
Well, it doesn't really seem like it, because there's a whole there's a little backstory to this with these 4 COVID-19 patients at U.S. Naval Hospital, and I don't know if the media, we just got our information. Maybe it just came a day ahead because the time difference or something. But we had come out and basically heard that they had 4 COVID-19 positive patients at U.S. Naval Hospital, and then it turns out, now they do.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. And first there was a denial that there was some, and now there was an admission.
There you go.
I guess they were waiting for an authorization to release that.
Maybe, and I'm pretty sure, we think that, how many flagpoles they have to run up stuff at Adelup, imagine on the federal level.
Yeah, there's a lot more flagpoles then.
Right. Thank you, Congressman.
Thank you.
Take care.
So much.
There you go. He's in Annandale, I think, Virginia, right? Is that Virginia?
I'm not sure.
Probably.
Jason, do you know? Jason?
Maybe. Former
Annandale?
Congressman Robert Underwood here containing COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Solis also in studio. And
Joe?
And Joe Sir, of course, our digital team, as we are running, I don't want to say skeleton crew, but...
Oh, this is definitely skeleton.
Yeah,
An abbreviated version of our normal... team.
Right, yeah.
But, it's got to be done, and we accept our responsibility, and we love our community, and that's why we're doing what we do,
There you go,
People
thanks.
need information. And again, this started... Yeah.
Thanks.
Showing how much we know
We're all
about this
getting
stuff.
used to it.
Right.
Microphone's backwards. Go figure. Starting yesterday, you're actually starting to see now. We talked about this. Initially there was a lot of concern, there was a lot of confusion, there was a lot of anger, there was a lot of fear, and now you're seeing local businesses, everyday people starting to do what they know how to do and what they're passionate about, and use their own gifts for the community. They're doing a lot of things online. People are congregating in Facebook groups, in multi-user video chats, in DMs and everything, and they're like, okay, we can't be physically in the same space, and even if we are, there's got to be a certain amount of space between us, but we can still hang out. We can watch a movie together. There are, I'm going to geek out now, but there are Google Chrome extensions right now where if you want to watch a Netflix movie together, there's like Movie Time, there's I think there's Netflix Together. Did you guys, okay, speaking of which, did you guys see that new feature that Instagram just rolled out? It's called Instagram Watching Together, and you can basically start a DM conversation video chat with a bunch of your friends, and then all the posts that you guys can mark as interesting, or you like it, or you tag yourself in it, or you share it, you can all discuss that together as a group. It's really, really neat. So if you have friends or family, no matter where you are in the world, what time, you guys can, basically like hang out, just, lie on your bed and, look at puppy pictures.
Where's this going, Jay?
Okay. May I just add funny
as long as you stop at lying on the bed.
Okay.
I don't want to know what happens after that.
Many Guamanians are now very familiar with the Zoom video chat platform, because of the governor's press conferences and everything. We've been using that internally too when we've been having our post wrap-up meetings when most of us go home. Let's just say Chris is very, very relaxed when we meet in our...
Hey, look, if you're going to call me into a meeting 7:30 at night and I'm at home, I'm in my underwear. That's just how it goes.
And you know what? And you've got a very nice hammock in your house, I must say. I never knew you've got that kind of hammock. But
all right, anyway.
Well
done. There you go. That's why we don't let him on that often. You never know where it's going to go.
That's your corner. Thank you.
Hey, it's 6:30. We're going to take a break, Bree, and do some news. We got a whole lot of information coming up for you this morning on containing COVID. We're going to talk to Dr. Tom Shea and find out what the real story is with moving women and children from the Guam Memorial Hospital. We had heard that it was something that was in the works, but during the press conference yesterday, Lillian said...
She said that nothing is set in stone, basically. Right. So, but we heard from Dr. Mike Cruz during the previous press conference that there are discussions. Tours have been conducted. So
I don't know. Again, it's like you got one person saying one thing, another person saying another.
Mm-hmm.
So
and the reason why I think that's of concern is because GMH has been designated for where all the COVID positive patients are supposed to go. So that's why.
And then GRMC has been designated for the non-COVID.
The COVID-free.
COVID-free zone. Right. All right, 6:31. We're going to do news here. It's Guam's favorite I-94 containing COVID. Good morning.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD. Be healthy. Be informed with ITD. Be healthy. Be informed with IT.
Happy day for everyone. Nestor Licanto here, and our guest today is Mr. Kaz Endo, who came up with this really cool idea, and I'll ask him to share that. But it's called hashtag support food to go Guam. Happy day, Kaz.
Happy day, Nestor. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, sir?
Okay, considering the circumstances, we're bunkered down, but modern technology allows us to feel like we're just on a long plane ride.
Yeah. So let me ask you to explain how you came up with the idea for this social media push that you're doing, and tell us a little bit about what it's about.
Sure. I've got a lot of friends out there who own restaurants. Some are operators, some actually own the restaurants themselves. And during this time, they're having a tough time. And for me, I usually cook at home. I'm a homebody now. I'm getting up there, so I don't really go out as much as I used to. But I said, hey, during this time, they need some support. So I decided to maybe every lunch head out for to go. The problem was nobody was really updating their pages, and they were just too busy. They were shorthanded, and I couldn't find any information. So my daughter works at one of the places, and she said, hey, why don't you come and get some lunch at Moz? And so I did, and I started thinking, what would be nice is to have a Facebook page that everybody can sort of crowdsource and put on information of where they went to eat, and not necessarily provide critical review, but just simply say, hey, they're open and they're servicing, and just really allow the customers to help the restaurants keep going during this period.
Yeah. What's the response been?
It's been pretty crazy. It's crazy nice. I'm just the administrator, and I try not to be the voice of it, other than to share this information. And so when I started it about 2 days ago, I just invited a few friends and asked them to share it with their network. And I think today, just about 2 days ago, started it. It's at 2,200 people. So it's quite nice to see that kind of robust reaction.
Yeah. And so how can a restaurant get on your social media program there?
Well, it's really easy because it's a public group. So that means anybody can join. And they don't even have to ask my permission to get on there. They just simply join. And basically the community will sort of police itself. I set up a few ground rules so that people play nice, and obviously during this period, some people are, some places aren't going to be as well stocked, or maybe they don't have the manpower. It's not going to be business as usual. So, it's tempting to, vent out frustrations for some people, but we're keeping all of that out. I've asked our members to just simply stay positive. If you have a problem with the restaurant or the eatery, to contact them directly. And I just immediately delete any kind of negative posts, because that wasn't the purpose of the page. The restaurants are having a hard time as it is, providing day-to-day service and keeping people employed. And the last thing they need is to have to defend themselves on social media. So, if they have a problem, they can directly contact the business owners. Otherwise, it's just really a forum to share where you can get food, how much, what's the menu available, so forth and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you know, food and being able to share a meal out there is very much a part of the fabric of our community. And having been a food establishment owner yourself, you know how tough that business can be and how thin those margins are.
Yeah, and it's some people have criticized it, maybe misinformed. They say it's dangerous. The world is dangerous, right? It's always been dangerous, and we're just being a little bit more careful now. But CDC has said you can't consume the virus. In other words, you can't get it by eating it. The stomach will kill it naturally. So people just need to be more careful. if they're going to go for a Payless run, then they can go for a sandwich run. It's the idea is to get in, get out. And a lot of these guys are doing curbside, and they're taking credit card information off the phone. So, very little touch points, I would say. And, until the government says no more takeout either, why not support the businesses who are trying to survive?
Yeah, and from what I'm hearing on the national media, it's a tough time across the country. Restaurants are trying to hang on as much as they can, but unfortunately, a lot of those businesses may have to close. And so, whatever help that we can provide, then we should do that. And I congratulate you on commend you for putting this together, and hopefully it will be helpful for those restaurants out there. All right. Thank you very much, Cos. Appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks for reaching out, Nestor, and I appreciate you giving this, public awareness notice to your large audience out there. We'll see you guys around. Take care of yourselves.
All right. Yeah, you too. Take care. Okay. There you have it. That's Cos Endo, and he is the, I guess, the founder, the originator of this social media program called #SupportFoodToGo Guam, and you can check it out on the Facebook page that he created. Nestor LeConte reporting. Thanks for watching KUAM News.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
Trees.
Plus the finest ocean blue that you'll ever see. Here on Guam, there's a difference you see.
Day 11.
Between that stateside life and that
The Guam's
island.
favorite containing COVID.
Let's go to Mumping, where the girls pass by all day. You can see them on
Good
the
morning on you to our
sand where they
Facebook
lay.
live viewers and listeners.
Get toasted by the sun.
Off it, everybody. If you're watching us online on our Facebook live stream, is that what you said?
Yeah,
I
that's
think
what
it was.
I just
Yeah.
said that.
Okay.
It's cool. Is there an echo in here?
Echo.
So day 11, yes, containing COVID, and the big news, of course, 5 new cases, and also 4 additional. I don't know how and that's what kind of we were talking about last night, is how do we include the 4 sailors who were medevaced off the Theodore Roosevelt, right?
Yeah. So when we were talking with Public Health Director Linda DeNorsi yesterday, she said that they were going to be separating it because the U.S. the military they don't their tests don't go through public health. They're run through San Diego, and so that's why there's this separation. So in their press releases they say 37 individuals tested by public health. So that's why there's that delineation.
Right. And so we now, basically have 41 COVID-19 positive people on
Right.
Guam.
37 tested by public health,
Right.
and then 4 now from the military or U.S. Theodore Roosevelt.
And those 4 are being held at Naval Hospital?
Yes, Naval Hospital and under isolation. So I've been trying to monitor now. It's just one other thing that we got to keep track of aggressively is the Department of Defense website, and they've been holding news conferences. So
They're still holding it. I was watching a little bit of it during the break, and I caught a part where they said that they have the capacity to run 6,000 COVID-19 tests a day.
is that
At Department of Defense.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
So
Okay. Well, as you heard from former Congressman Robert Underwood early this morning, the Senate and the House negotiators, they reached a deal on a rescue package to inject nearly $2 trillion into the economy. And the deal comes as President Trump is looking to get Americans in many parts of the country out of the House and back to work. The Senate is expected to approve, again, that $2 trillion stimulus package today. Now, the bill includes a direct cash payment of up to $1,200 for most working Americans, $3,000 for the average family. It also expands unemployment insurance from 26 to 39 weeks for most people and boosts benefits by $600 a week through July. And, the unemployment insurance provision includes the CNMI, Guam, and the FAS, according to Underwood. Even though, we don't have an unemployment insurance package here in
Which
Guam.
is just kind of crazy. I mean, I'm pretty sure after COVID, that's one of the things that we're looking at.
I think even Vice Speaker Talina Nelson, she had the Unemployment Benefits Act that she was trying to get an emergency session for. And I think she even mentioned that we don't have an unemployment program here. So I'm not sure, the legislature, they're, out until further notice. So
I wanted to read this comment here from Marilyn Alcon off our Facebook Live. We need to prepare ourselves for infected sailors to come to Guam. There are many carrier ships in our area, and when they get infected, the nearest American soil is Guam. They'll be brought here by way of Naval Hospital. It'll become a hot spot. Diamond Princess docked in Japan with hundreds tested positive. Grand Princess couldn't dock until, and we kind of talked about this, like, is this Theodore Roosevelt going to be like one of these cruise ships where they're just like
going around,
can't dock anywhere? I doubt it. I mean,
yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say anything. I'm just going to continue to watch some of those press conferences.
Right. And that's kind of, one of the things I thought was interesting in a bad way was that we heard about this. We started hearing about these 4 infected sailors coming to Guam through the national media.
Yeah, well, there was that question that was posed during the press conference from one of the reporters who had confirmed with the Naval Hospital spokesperson about the 4 sailors or 4 military people at Naval Hospital. And, the governor, she didn't know. She didn't hear anything. And by law, it's required to be reported to public health. So
I think what happened there is maybe the people got the information early. I mean, and that's why the Naval Hospital spokesperson had confirmed it. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, and I'm not sure we're going to be.
It just looks bad, I mean.
What's also confusing is that when you read some of the stories on online, they're actually only saying 3. Did you notice that?
Yeah, you were telling me about that.
Yeah, they were only saying 3, and then Joint Region Marianas came out with their press release saying 4. So, I don't know.
Yeah, it is confusing, and definitely a bad week for the military on Guam as they were taking so much flack over the commissary stuff.
Oh.
Right? And then you have this.
Their hours.
You have this changing their hours and now changing their story.
Well, I did want to get to a soundbite from the governor. She had released during the press conference. She was mentioning how she was on a conference call with the White House, and she specifically requested three different things during that that conference call.
Okay, can you stretch a little bit so I can pull up that clip?
Okay, yeah. She did make 3 specific requests. One was related to the Federal Emergency Management Agency regarding reimbursements. She also talked about requesting for Title 32, I believe, authority, which is dealing with the National Guard, and that is something that the president already approved, I believe, for California and New York. And there was one more that I cannot recall off the top of my head. Yeah, I'm going to have to wait for that soundbite. But I'll go ahead and break down some of the profiles for the earlier confirmed cases, on the positive confirmed cases. And this is just for 32. So this was released on Tuesday. 32 positive cases. The status, 21 were in stable condition, 10 were hospitalized, and of course 1 was deceased. The gender breakdown, 13 male, 19 female. Their residential location, 8 are from the north, 14 from central Guam, and 8 from southern Guam. 2 are still under investigation for place of residence. Their travel history, 1 is from Japan, 6 from Philippines, 1 is from the U.S. mainland, and the rest of the 32 cases, there is no travel history. The age groups, 1 is in their 90s, 2 are in their 70s, 13 are in their 60s, 4 are in their 50s, 5 are in their 40s, 3 are in their 30s, and 3 are in their 20s.
Okay, and so we're going to play this clip from Governor Lulian Guerrero, and this is, I believe, this is from an address she made yesterday morning.
Right.
And
I'm basically summarizing a little bit of her teleconference with the White House.
Okay, here we go. So Governor Lulian Guerrero on containing COVID, KUAM News, I-94.
I had a conference call and asked them to please speed up 1,000 tests for us, because this is how we can better control our community by knowledge and data and information. I've also asked them to give me Title 32 authority. What that means is then I can deploy National Guard people to help with security, to help with all the other services that we need to enhance our police security, and over in our quarantine places, our hospitals and so forth. I also asked them to increase our FEMA participation from 75-25 to 100%.
Lulian Guerrero, she was talking about summarizing what she had requested during a conference call with the White House. And so, as she mentioned, she's requesting for the immediate release of 1,000 test kits, Title 32 authority for the National Guard, and also 100% FEMA reimbursement.
Right, and so there was something going around yesterday about the National Guard. I know you saw this. It was a kind of a little image, I guess, that was going around about the National Guard being activated nationally, and the governor's office and the Joint Information Center had come out and said that that was fake news. They actually used the term fake news on their Facebook page, which is very, very Trumpian, I thought. But the governor there saying that she wants to deploy the National Guard out into the streets to help with security and stuff. So,
well, some of them are already out on.
Right.
So I think Title 32 is something different. I think what it would
it's
do is
something
would
with the
give,
pay or something. Right.
Yeah, and also I think she would have authority over the National Guard troops. Something like. I mean, she already does, but
right.
Yeah, I'd have to look into what that exactly means.
Right, but you spoke with Major Joe Blas of the Guam National Guard yesterday, and what did she tell you?
She hadn't heard of it, but she is taking I guess a conference call today, so I don't know if that's going to change, but for now that is absolutely false, because when I got it, I sent it to Crystal and say, hey, did you hear about this? And she hadn't, and so she looked into it, and then she put out her fake news on Facebook, so...
something else I saw here nationally, and I wish we would have been able to talk about this when we had a former Congressman Underwood on the line, is, we talked about yesterday senators being able to go into session and all of the legal gymnastics they're saying that they have to do to be able to have some kind of session because of the rules and whatnot. But members of Congress, coronavirus concerns have been taken to virtual town halls. This is pretty interesting, as over 150 members of Congress have held 150 different official events, including 152 town halls. So,
wow.
On the state side, we've already seen that elected leaders there are finding ways to reach out to their constituents and to have two-way conversations, which I think is pretty cool. We haven't heard anything from Congressman St. Nicholas. I know he's always active on Facebook. So that's something that I think that would be pretty cool if we were to be able to get, well, first of all, if we were to be able to have access, because Congressman St. Nicholas has got, I don't know what it is.
We're trying.
Yeah, we are definitely trying, and we're getting the news over from his office one way or another and putting it out to you guys, the people of Guam. But that would be good, because with this federal stuff that's coming out, that's right up in his wheelhouse. And I think it would behoove him to kind of unpack. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in this $2 trillion aid package, and it's
expected to be approved, any minute now, any time today. And the president is ready to sign it. And just if you are just joining us, it includes a direct cash payment of up to $1,200 for most working Americans, $3,000 for the average family. It also expands unemployment insurance from 26 to 39 weeks for most people and boosts benefits by $600 a week through July. It contains nearly $400 billion in loans and grants to small businesses to keep workers on the payroll, plus another $500 billion in loans for major industries like the airlines. And it also provides more than $130 billion for the nation's health care providers. In the White House, they say that the president is ready to sign it as soon as it passes the House and Senate. And he's also stepping up his calls to get Americans back to work. And as you heard yesterday, right, we were talking about how Easter.
yeah, and that came up in the press conference with the governor. I don't know, I forget which media mentioned it, but they were basically like, "Hey, well, Trump wants to get everyone back to work on Easter," and the governor was like, "Yeah, we're not really following that. We're kind of doing our own thing. We want to make sure that we get people tested because remember, every time they get a positive result." We've heard from Dr. Cabrera and all the other doctors that kind of resets the clock, right?
By another 14 days.
Yeah. So those of you thinking that this is going to end on April 13th, you might want to start mentally preparing for the opposite, for it to keep on going.
And again, 5 new confirmed cases of COVID-19 on Guam for a total of 37 positive cases, which were confirmed by the Department of Public Health, and then the 4 positive cases from the USS Theodore Roosevelt. And just a reminder, we are still under a mandatory isolation directive by the governor. And, we're still seeing people out on the roads and, hopefully they're going to work and, not out.
I was out yesterday. Well, I wasn't really out. I drove over to Compadres Mall to pick up lunch for us, and there were people all over the place. There was a line about, 25 cars deep at Infusion. There was a 10-car line at the whatever credit unions over here. There's about 50 million people at Cost Less, and during this whole time, I saw about 85 cars go by.
Right, and I think it's supposed to be a 50, what is it, people in one place, or for social gatherings, you would think if you're going into the
and this is exactly
market,
what we're talking about.
To be.
And I put it on my Instagram, and I kind of was just like, I had put a little thing there that, I foresee another, 4 weeks of mandatory because you guys aren't listening. The governor's telling you guys to stay home. And the reaction I got on my Instagram story was people were mad. They were mad that I was showing, not they weren't mad at me, but they were like, what's up with all these people out and about doing all these things when we should be at home? And I was getting so many like mad emojis. And then people were texting me like, that just makes me mad. And I was like, yeah, it makes me mad too.
Yeah, it really is infuriating. And maybe they are going to work. I'm not sure. Because there's still people that have to work, the people that work at the grocery stores, the people that work at the gas stations, federal employees, people like us. But for the most part, you should be staying home.
Yeah, you should.
The idea here is, the governor, she wants it to get down to 0, but right now we went from 3 to 5.
From 2 to 3 to 5.
Yeah.
So that's the trajectory. I hate to say it, and the governor didn't want it to be, but Dr. Cabrera's right so far.
Yeah, and we want him to be wrong.
We definitely do.
Please stay home.
At 6:56, we're gonna get Johnny from the FSM. He's with the FSM consulate, or
yeah, he's a foreign affairs service officer, and this might be him calling. I think he's calling on the wrong number, Johnny. If you're listening,
so
we'll 637-0094.
We're gonna take a break, and we're gonna get Johnny on the line here at 6:57. We're KUAM FM. I got you, Guam. Good morning.
Wendy's is open. Be healthy. Be informed with ITD. healthy. Be informed with IT.
Civil Defense Administrator Charles Esteves acknowledged they're running low on PPEs, but he says a shipment should arrive in 1 to 3 weeks.
At this time, the priority for personal protective equipment is for medical health providers, first responders, then all others as on a case-by-case basis. Additionally, we do ask that people do not hoard PPE. I can tell you that based on what we received in terms of how the virus works and how it's contracted and spread, is that if you practice social distancing and you're not in sustained contact with anyone who is COVID-19 positive, then your risk for contracting the virus is significantly low.
The governor assures that despite the low supply, the medical providers and first responders are getting the PPEs that they need. Meanwhile, Esteves says they're also asking private businesses that use PPEs, such as dental clinics, optometrists, and veterinarians, if they have any to spare. He says they're also checking on international vendors, including from South Korea and China. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
Guam's favorite, I-94. You know, my buddy Christian Blas, you go over to his Instagram. He's doing this Three Little Birds challenge where he did Bob Marley's Three Little Birds to kind of share some smiles, and he's challenging some other artists to do it too. So that's pretty cool. There's so many of these live performance / music challenges. There's a really cool one that's going around now on Instagram. It's a Guam local band cover challenge. Where you're having like a lot of local artists, they're covering other local artists' songs, and then they're tagging other local artists to cover other. You get what I'm saying here?
I get it. I get it. So when are we going to see yours?
Yeah, I went and I put something on my Instagram. I was like, hey, because I was thinking, man.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It'd be kind of cool to do a little, social media live performance. And I got 2 no votes, which is funny because one of them was from Sabrina. This morning I woke up and I was like, I've been checking my votes on this because it was a little poll. And I was like, no, Sabrina. Okay. So I'm trying not to take it personal this morning. It's 7 o'clock. Let's go over to the phones here, 637-0094. We've got Johnny.
Hi, Johnny. He's Johnny Slobana's Foreign Service Officer. Here to talk with us about the outreach that the FSM community, FSM Consul General's office is doing to reach out to FSM and FAS citizens. Good morning, Johnny.
Hi, good morning, Sabrina and Chris. Thank you for having me. So, per your query, our office is pretty much, in the loop of governor's executive order, trying to, relay the message out to our citizens on Guam. And I'm sure many of our citizens are aware of the seriousness of this COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
So, the word is out there within our community. So, and then also we're trying to relay the message out to our association Facebook page, and also with the associations through the social networking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What's your Facebook page?
It's FSM Association of Guam.
Okay. And I wanted to ask about what's happening in the FSM, and if you could share with us the latest and some of the directives from President Penuelo.
Okay, so there are still flights going to FSM. It's just that there are no passengers going to all the islands. They just currently did their restrictions. So Yap was the last one that not allowing passengers to go, but all the FSM states, they're all not, having flights go there right now. So because of the number of not enough facilities for the quarantine, the state of Pohnpei, we're expecting that maybe on April 6th or 5th, we'll know exactly if we're able to, have some people go, passengers. We're working with the task force in the state, particularly in Pohnpei, through our FSM task force. So coordination through United Airlines from the state of Pohnpei and also to Guam.
So is there, if you could clarify, is there a travel ban in effect, or you're not allowed to leave and you're not allowed to enter? Unless it's essential.
Yes, actually, there's actually right now no one is able to travel to the FSM.
Mm-hmm. What about traveling out of the FSM? That's also
yes. Coming out of the FSM, coming to Guam, it's still okay. But I think it really depends on how the case for Guam is going. I'm really not sure. We're trying to find out if those coming to Guam, bound to Hawaii and the other states, if they also need to, to stay for the 14 days.
If they don't have a medical clearance, right? From that's where it's going.
Correct. Mm-hmm. The understanding, coming through Guam from Philippines and other places, you have to have some sort of a medical clearance in order to, be a home quarantine or to continue traveling.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What are some of the concerns you're hearing from the local FSM community?
Right now, I think the most concerning thing is many of our citizens are being laid off work. Many of them are not making the hours that, the regular hours. So we're trying to, find out on how we can assist, mitigate these real challenges, those that are working in the private businesses.
Johnny, how many layoffs have we seen in the FAS?
On Guam during this time?
Yeah. On Guam, also in the FSM.
Well, the FSM, I don't think the FSM, there's a really direct problem to the issue now because, I would assume business is still going as usual because we don't have the virus yet. But I think on Guam, I'm really not too sure, Chris. We don't have that information right now as to how many people are being laid off.
But Johnny, you're definitely hearing it because I think we have a lot of people connected with the FAS, the FSM that work on in the service industries, at the hotels, food and beverage. You go to lunch on Guam on a normal day. There's a chance someone with ties from the FSM cooked your meal.
Yeah, that's very true, Chris. And I think that's the truth to the matter that, many of our citizens are working in that industry. And, if you go down to Tumon, I think everyone is aware that, it's pretty much like a ghost town down there. And many of these places that, they work at. And, that's really a challenge that we see now. And, this is just the beginning. We just hope that, things will be better. We're trying our best to see and also find out if, I don't want to really say, but if this stimulus package would also include many of our FAS citizens that, pretty much affected by this thing.
Right. Well, we just heard from former Congressman Robert Underwood that FAS was included. So that's some good news.
Wow,
Definitely. Yeah.
Man, I'm really glad to hear that, because I think that's the kind of conversations that we're going to be looking at from now on how to, help out, especially with, many of our citizens. This is like, the place that they work in, in that sector.
Have you heard whether or not, because they do work in, you were mentioning a lot, work in the tourism sector, have any of them tested positive or anything like that here in Guam?
No, actually, no, but, the message is clear. We're also trying to encourage our citizens, either they're, not doing, gatherings, but, really to encourage them to go out there, and if they're feeling sick, that there's help, encourage them to, to go test, at the site.
Mm-hmm. So is this pretty much how people can get a hold of the FSM Consul General through Facebook, or is there a phone number for people who are listening?
Yeah, thank you, Sabrina. Our number, our office, we're still operating. It's just that through phone calls right now, and unless if it's really emergency, then we'll come in to assist. But they can, anybody, especially our citizens, they can call into our office. It's 646-9154, and it will actually, the calls will eventually transmit out to our cell phones, and then we'll try to assist.
Wow. Johnny, what kind of calls are you getting there through the consulate?
Right now, the regular calls are, traveling to the FSM. Those that are, still here for that 14 days, and also trying to, not trying to, but, with not able to travel out to the FSM, and that they're still stuck here. We have some patients that were on medical referrals to PI and then back, and also still on Guam. So these are the regular calls that we're getting, just to get an update on, when they can go back home.
Wow, are you hearing at all that people are? I'm pretty sure they are having some financial difficulties having to stay on Guam longer than they thought they were going to have to stay.
Yeah, that's very true. But most of the medical referrals on Guam from the FSM, they get some assistance from the government as to, where they're staying. It's just those that are traveling bound back to the FSM from the other states. If they're not on that or the medical listing, then pretty much they're on their own. So that's one of the challenges that we see here, and most often the regular calls that we receive from our citizens. But they're right now, many of them are staying with relatives on Guam.
Right. Johnny, what can you tell us about Manetlu? And where we know that there were some meals going out from Kadu Guam. Has that been something that has benefited members of the FSM community?
Chris, yes, I know that is going on, but I am not really sure. I haven't been able to reach out to our big sisters and big brothers on that initiative, but I'm pretty sure. I think if that's part of the meal that it's been keeping out, or for the school supplemental food program that they're doing now, then I'm pretty much sure that our citizens are being able to get into those things.
Johnny, we thank you so much for your time, and you make sure you call if there's anything you need us to get out to the people, or the listeners, the viewers.
Chris, thank you so much for having me. If there's anything, we will let you know. So you can let our people know. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, you, Johnny.
Okay, and you be safe.
You too.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Goodbye. You okay over there, Sabrina?
Oh gosh, I had my markers.
We had a
all
marker,
over my hands.
a marker malfunction.
But that was Johnny Silvanus. He's a foreign services officer. Yes, Jason. There's my hands. Okay, I kind of wiped most of it off, but anyway, that was Johnny Silvanus. He is a foreign services officer with the FSM Consul General's office. And for anyone in the FSM FAS community, if you have any questions or any concerns, you're urged to visit their Facebook page. That's the FSM Association Guam. Also, you can give them a call. Their office number is 646-9154. That's 646-9154. And the phone is set to their cell phones. So you're definitely going to get someone picking up and answering your call.
Right. 7:14. Let's go ahead and bring Dr. Tom Shea onto the show here. Good morning, Doc.
Hey, good morning. Sorry I couldn't pick up your call right away.
No problem. We're just glad.
We know you're busy.
Yeah, we're glad to have you here. I know Sabrina had wanted to ask you about this move that was kind of still being talked about, I guess, is what we're hearing.
And during the press conference when Chris had actually asked the question on whether or not it was being held up on contract negotiations, and Dr. Mike Cruz said no, Lillian Posada said no, there's just so many details that have to be worked out because you're talking about moving so many different wards up to GRMC, the COVID-free hospital. And one of the things that they mentioned was that a tour took place and that discussions were held with between GMH and GRMC, and also they mentioned your name because I believe you're the chair of OB.
Yeah, I'm the chairman of the OB department. And yesterday we actually had about 6 OBGYNs, private OBGYNs. We've never been to GRMC, so we've gone there and take a look at it and look at their facility for the labor and delivery, the surgical suite, and even the NICU, the neonatal intensive care, and also the pediatric side. I can only recommend, and it's not my decision. I don't have the power to do much of anything. I don't have the power to shut down the island. I recommended it. I think I was the first one to say shut down and lockdown. So it's not that. It's not that I can just have a magic wand. Let's do this. Let's do it. But there's people that's in power to have those, the authority to do that. But we did go and take a tour of the GRMC, labor and delivery, and everything else. But before I didn't go to GRMC, it's because I couldn't go to 2 hospitals, GMH and GRMC. You have to choose one or the other as a solo practitioner. But, after taking a tour, and Mike has invited me to tour before, and I just didn't really consider it. But I did go down there with 6 of our OBs, and we took a look at it, and I think it's good. I think the system set up there with the maternity ward and the NICU. Just to tell you, the neonatal ICU at GRMC, it's about, I would say, 10 times bigger than GMH and ICU. 10 times bigger than the NICU. So I think the facility is better, and I think we should take advantage of it. If GRMC has offered it to GMH, I think we should take the opportunity. And yes, plan it out. Plan it out. It doesn't have to be right away, but if we're going to expect a surge in missing the capacities at GMH, I think we got to plan that out early rather than later.
Right. So, Doc, what's the real story? So we heard that they were going to be moved. Dr. Mike Cruz pretty much confirmed that yes, they were in the beginning phases of moving them, and then discussing it, and then basically Lillian Posadas came out and threw a bunch of water on the fire yesterday and said no, this is just something we're just talking about.
And Dr. Akamoto yesterday was here on the radio show saying that it should have happened yesterday.
Well, I think the planning process, if you're going to plan that out, probably we should have had it done last week. But, be as it may, like I said, I don't have the power to do much of anything. I'm just an independent provider. I give advice where I can. I don't have that ranking that giving me the authority to do that. It's up to Lillian Posada, up to Annie Badalio at the GMH, and she's the medical director. She also runs SAGWA. I think she also takes call, or I'm not sure, at the GRMC. But I think the bottom line here is this. We want to make sure that we move the maternity ward, OB, and the nursery to GRMC for the safety of moms and babies.
Right.
We know that GMH is going to be inundated with a lot of COVID-19 patients. That's what the predictive outcome is coming out from the press conference. I say, wow, we're going to have this much capacity. Then why not take advantage of the empty rooms over at GRMC if indeed that GMH is designated as the COVID-19 hospital? It makes sense. And rather than putting it off and just wait until something happens, and then we rush, that becomes a really emergent, and that's when mistakes happen.
Well, what's the holdup, Doc? Do you know what the holdup is?
I have no idea what the holdup is. I think, like I said, I don't have that authority to do much of anything except to just comment. And when I comment, people get mad at me because they don't like my comments. And it's okay. I did say the lockdown. I'm glad that, a week later or, the lockdown. But if you read my emails back in January, I kind of predicted all this would have happened if people would have listened back in January. But, be as it may, let's not go back there. Because if we keep going back there, I keep getting upset. So let's not do that.
Okay.
Let's move forward. I think what we need to do, my recommendation is yes. I think we need to move the maternal child over to GRMC. We looked at the facility. I think it's going to work out fine. And keep COVID-19 hospital GMH. That's fine. We do that. Everybody's pitching in, which is good. Oh, before I forget, I want to thank KUAM for partnering up with us. The doctors, Guam Medical Association, to get the PSA out. I think that was a very good thing that we partnered up with you and also with the other media. Before I forget that, and I want to take the opportunity to thank the people at Payless. The essential workers. They're out there stocking up the supplies, the food, and everything, so that we can go out and get our food. So those people are actually the heroes out there too, putting out the bread, the fruits for all of us to consume. It's easy for us to go out there, pay money and buy it, but it's those people who are stocking it up. So I want to give a big shout out to them to say thank you very much. Now, getting back to the maternal ward, I can only recommend. And, we'll talk about it as a department, but, I think the pediatric department, they're going to talk about it. I can tell you, the doctors are not all on the same page. And that's the problem with the system, is that some doctors think that they can do what they want, like me. I can do what I want, but other doctors may be against it. For all conflict of interest that all involve whatever they are, we need to put that all aside and focus. What is the best? There's MP rooms up there. Why not take advantage of it? It makes sense.
Doc, are the moms and the kids over at GMH, are they ready for the move? Some of them are your patients, I'm assuming. What are they thinking?
I think the maternity side is fine. I think the OB side is easy. I'll give you an example. We're not always at capacity at GMH. So, you pick a day where it's ready to move. Actually, we set up GRMC. If GRMC is ready to receive us, we can start moving things over. The facility is perfect. I think it's fine. But I think to move the laboring rooms and the delivery rooms, postpartum rooms is pretty easy. I don't think that's going to be a difficult thing. I think the hard thing is that we got to plan it out for the nursery. But majority of the babies are actually rooming in, so that means that they stay with the mom anyway.
Right.
But those baby who need incubation, the incubators and stuff, I think we have a few that's over. There's going to be a transition period. I think a transition period is going to be like, okay, we're going to have some patients here, but also we're going to have some patients at GRMC. And then during that transition, have the ambulance transfer things over. And we can do that in a safety manner that, in a safe manner that, it's not going to, cause too much of a headache. Mm-hmm. But I think we'll work with the pediatricians. The majority of the pediatricians don't admit patients to the hospitals anyway.
Right.
It's all the hospitalists. The hospitalist is the one that's doing it. So I think we need to talk to them. And their employer is Governor Guam. So I think the Governor Guam has the authority to say, hey, you're my employee. I want you to do this. I'm independent. I don't work for the hospital. I don't work for the government. So, maybe that's why they're not listening to me. Huh? What do you think, Chris?
Maybe. Doc, we had a question here on the Facebook. Please test all patients before moving to GRMC. Do not infect the only one hospital we have on Guam. What do you think of that? Because people are saying that.
If I had the power, remember now, if I had the power, I'd test everybody, okay? Everybody on island, 160,000 people, let's test everybody.
Right.
If China, people can do it, let's test everybody. Why not, right? But the reality is that we cannot do that. Now, the question is, why infect GRMC? Well, think about it. There are GRMC employees there that's also working at GMH. There are GRMC employees that's out there, outside. Everybody right now outside is at risk of being infected.
Right.
Everybody's positive.
It's a shared labor pool, right?
Yes. So for all we know, GRMC could have an employee that's already positive. We just don't know. So, don't assume that test everybody before they go. That's not the right way to approach things. This is a public health crisis, and you assume everybody's positive. Okay?
Do you have an idea how many people we're talking about, how many pregnant women and babies that would be moved?
Every single day we have, I think we average maybe around, I would say 10 deliveries a day on the average, because we deliver about 200 babies, 200, maybe sometime in a higher month, maybe 220 at the most a month. So we have about 200 moms 200 plus 100 moms that comes through that doesn't give birth for high-risk patients. So on Guam, we have about 2,000, an average of 2,000 births a year. That's on the average. So we're looking at maybe moving in one day, maybe anywhere between, on a low day, maybe 10 moms, but those patients can be discharged in OB ward. We just need to move the delivery site. But again, there's a transition period. We're not saying move everybody. The patient can be delivered. After delivered, then we'll go ahead and move it out. I have the process in my mind. It's just that I need somebody that can listen to me. I have the process all in my mind, drawn out, on how to make this move. But like I said, I'm not the one that calling the shot. I don't have the authority to do so.
Sounds like you need to be a part of the physicians advisory group.
See, you shouldn't have made the governor mad.
No, listen, my job is not to make the governor mad at all. In fact, I like what she said today. We are a very loving island, but we're going to have to adjust our ways. No longer can we hug each other. We can't kiss each other in the cheeks. Things like that. Kiss the monuncle's hands. Those are our culture here on the island. Even in Hawaii, we have to change our culture. And that's one thing I would agree with the governor, is that we are a loving island. And how did we get to this point? I think after all this is over, I'm sure you're going to do a detailed analysis of how did we get to this point. Date back all the way to January. And I don't want to give you my emails because you'll get very upset. Don't read my emails back in January because I predicted all this. But again, I think what we need to do is listen to everybody. We're going to argue. That's a human nature.
Right.
I argue with our doctors all the time.
Sure.
They hate me for what I say. They stop it. You're causing panic. I'm not trying to cause panic. I think we're beyond that stage of panic.
Yeah.
Right? I
don't think you can cause something that's already there.
No, you can't. We can't say we're causing panic.
Right.
I think we know that the situation is dire and we are in a lockdown, so everybody should do their part. And I think our job as doctors is to try to, and I'm trying to calm the public. That's why we reach out to the media to do the PSAs and those things. I think when they hear from us doctors that we are trying to calm the situation down. So I don't want anybody to panic because we're beyond that stage of panicking. We need to work together and try to beat this thing. But, all the positives are coming out. And let me tell you now, we're not testing enough people. And that's the problem. The more we test, we're going to find even more positives. So we're going to have to keep an eye on this and see what happens.
Well, Doc, thank you so much for your time. And you keep us posted on what's going on with the move there and when it goes from the discussion phase to the the actual move. Okay?
Well, last night when I was sleeping, I had 5 hours of solid sleep, no calls. I woke up and I go, oh, my God. What happened? I had 5 hours of sleep in the last 5 weeks, I think, since this thing's been happening. So, I was dreaming that, okay, we're moving, we're actually delivering baby there. It's like, okay, everything's
only in your
good,
dreams, Doc.
And I woke up and I go, oh my God, just a dream.
Just a dream. Okay.
Take care.
Sweet dreams. Okay.
Be safe.
Bye.
Oh, man.
So, discussions are underway. In the meantime, there's protocols that the Guam Memorial Hospital has in place for expectant mothers. They've made adjustments to its protocol for admitting expectant mothers who are in labor. Patients are asked to proceed to the emergency room where they will be assessed for symptoms of COVID-19. Now, if the expectant mother meets the criteria for COVID-19 person under investigation, or PUI, the patient will be further assessed in triage by nursing staff to ensure minimal exposure to others. The expectant mother will be fitted with proper PPE and taken into the labor and delivery room through a separate hallway from the ER. If the expectant mother does not meet the criteria for COVID-19 PUI, she will be taken straight to the labor and delivery room. And so that's what's in place for now until, yes, Jason?
Yes, Jay?
Okay, hi guys. I just wanted to pop in right now, and we've got a comment from. It's very timely and topical. It's by one of our top fans. This is from Kin Mesa, who's very, very active in our community. So Kin, thank you very much. He's saying, how is everyone concerned about citizens that get unemployed? How about the ones that go homeless? And this generated kind of like a side chat in the comment stream. We actually have some resources available on KUAM.com and our app right now. We've been talking the past couple days about rent and eviction relief and what's been going on with that. Chris, you even touched on that yesterday about what landlords are possibly doing. So Ken, if you want to check out our website or our mobile app, we've got you. There's a lot of articles that you can read about what's going on as far as landlords, the real estate market.
Right. Just for landlords, the governor is asking that you guys be a little more lenient. That's an order, okay? Mm-hmm. Coming from the Gov. 7:29. We got to take a break. We're coming back with Bernie from Matson and tell us about what's on that ship that just came in. And then I wanted to get this out before we go to break. Andrew Terlahi comments on the Facebook. Can someone get a hold of the president of UOG and find out how he's going to complete this spring 2020 semester? I shot that over to Jonas from UOG, and he writes here on the WhatsApp. Chris, we sent an email to students yesterday with information on how we'll be moving forward. Classes that were already online will start on March 30th. Classes that were face-to-face will restart April 6th, online or in an alternative format. The faculty will be contacting their students in the next few days, and students will also receive more information and support from our Office of Information Technology.
All right. Also, I wanted to make sure I got this out. This also was from the Joint Information Center, that given the number of positive cases of COVID-19 accelerating on our island, consider yourself possibly exposed if you've recently traveled or attended any mass gatherings such as church, fiestas, small parties, or other gatherings within the past 14 days. So for the next 14 days, stay home, self-quarantine, and monitor yourself for symptoms. If you feel any of the signs and symptoms of COVID-19, contact your doctor or healthcare clinic. Some of the symptoms include, but are limited to, fever, sore throat, cough, runny nose, and shortness of breath. Other symptoms can include abdominal pain, chest pain, headache, chills, and congestion. And that's just naming a few. And also due to a lack of testing supplies until commercial testing becomes available, public health, their laboratory will not be testing mildly sick people with symptoms. Patients having mild illness are advised to stay home and to not go to the emergency room in hospitals.
Wow.
People who are sick with mild symptoms, again, should stay home and self-quarantine for 14 days from the first day their symptoms began, and longer if symptoms persist more than 14 days. Until further advised, do not go to clinics for testing unless you have serious symptoms.
Again, the situation rapidly evolving by the second, and we're trying to give you guys the latest information. That's kind of big, Bree.
Yeah, and I just got that on the release here because it was buried way at the bottom of it.
Yeah.
Also,
it's funny they bury stuff like that at the way bottom, and then they put go like the governor's Facebook page at the way top.
Right. and just
who is calling the shots over there? God,
just also I wanted to make sure I pass along the medical triage hotline number. That is 480-7859, 480-6760, 480-7883, and 687-6170, and that is the dedicated ADA number.
Wow, we're going to read that out again later. That's a kind of a big one there. The lead buried in that Joint Information Center release that came out last night. We'll take a break. We'll do some news at 7:32. Containing COVID on KUAM-FM, Agotni, Guam. Good morning.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
Defense Administrator Charles Esteves acknowledged they're running low on PPEs, but he says a shipment should arrive in 1 to 3 weeks.
At this time, the priority for personal protective equipment is for medical health providers, first responders, then all others as on a case-by-case basis. Additionally, we do ask that people do not hoard PPE. I can tell you that based on what we received in terms of how the virus works and how it's contracted and spread, is that if you practice social distancing and you're not in sustained contact with anyone who is COVID-19 positive, then your risk for contracting the virus is significantly low.
The governor assures that despite the low supply, the medical providers and first responders are getting the PPEs that they need. Meanwhile, Esteves says they're also asking private businesses that use PPEs, such as dental clinics, optometrists, and veterinarians, if they have any to spare. He says they're also checking on international vendors, including from South Korea and China. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
Happy day, everyone. Nestor Lecanto here, and our guest today is Mr. Cos Endo, who came up with this really cool idea, and I'll ask him to share that. But it's called hashtag support food to go Guam. Happy day, Cos.
Happy day, Nestor. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, sir?
Okay, considering the circumstances, we're bunkered down, but modern technology allows us to feel like we're just on a long plane ride.
Yeah. So let me ask you to explain how you came up with the idea for this social media push that you're doing, and tell us a little bit about what it's about.
Sure. I've got a lot of friends out there who own restaurants. Some are operators, some actually own the restaurants themselves. And during this time, they're having a tough time. And for me, I usually cook at home. I'm a homebody now. I'm getting up there, so I don't really go out as much as I used to. But I said, hey, during this time, they need some support. So I decided to maybe every lunch head out for to go. The problem was nobody was really updating their pages. And, they were just too busy. They were shorthanded, and I couldn't find any information. So my daughter works at one of the places, and she said, hey, why don't you come and get some lunch at Moz? And so I did. And I started thinking, what would be nice is to have a Facebook page that everybody can sort of crowdsource and put on information of where they went to eat, and not necessarily provide critical review, but just simply say, hey, they're open and they're servicing, and just really allow the customers to help the restaurants keep going during this period.
Yeah. What's the response been?
It's been pretty crazy. It's crazy nice. I'm just the administrator, and I try not to be the voice of it, other than to share this information. And so when I started it about 2 days ago, I just invited a few friends and asked them to share it with their network. And I think today, just about 2 days ago, started it. It's at 2,200 people. So
little bit of soul vibes containing COVID 739. We're going to bring Bernie up on the show. Bernie, of course, from Matson. Good morning, Bernie.
Good morning. I was just enjoying the music.
Me too.
Me too.
Got a vibe into it. So let me get this straight. The ship is in.
No, the ship left. The ship came in yesterday. So.
Was in.
That's how, yeah,
Was in.
was in. And Bernie, can you tell us a little bit about what was on that ship?
Well, we have weekly service into Guam. Ship usually comes in on Tuesdays, but we were just a little delayed yesterday. We had some required Coast Guard inspections while at sea, so we ended up arriving on Wednesday. But there's all the typical items that all your retailers and wholesalers and construction companies would typically bring into Guam, right, to fill up all those wholesale and retail warehouses.
Mm-hmm. So that's a good thing that you mentioned that this is going to be a consistent thing. It's the weekly shipments you can guarantee, or you can count on them to be arriving to Guam.
Yeah, we have 5 vessels dedicated to the Guam service, and we need those 5 vessels to do rotations that come into Guam on a weekly basis. We've been doing this for 24 years, so thanks for giving us the opportunity to tell people about it and ask people not to worry.
You know, there was a talk about the California-Hawaii shelter in place. Can you share whether or not this has any sort of impact on Guam?
Yeah, on March 20th, I believe it was, California had a stay-at-home executive order. That does not affect our operations because they talk about essential businesses, and Matson is considered an essential business, as well as a lot of our folks who work for us to support the port operations there in California, including the truckers.
I see. And I think this is that's good to hear because, people, you still see a lot of people that they're going out and they're going out and shopping, and some people, and Chris always says I do it, but that's absolutely not true. Our
Yeah, let me tell you, Sabrina is probably like a big part of the reason why you guys had to have a ship come in yesterday, because she's been hoarding hand sanitizer and Clorox wipes ever since way before
this.
Yeah. So when they talked about national stockpile of PPEs yesterday during the governor's press conference, I just want to say we have our own little national stockpile of cleaning supplies here at KUAM.
Well, I'm sure there are many on island who were germaphobes before this COVID-19 issue. So I thought, Sabrina, I don't hoard either, but I sure have a lot of cleaning supplies too.
So that's your story, and you guys are sticking to it.
That's it.
All right, Bernie. Anything else you want to throw out here for our listeners and our viewers?
Well, yeah, just like Sabrina asked, we have weekly service into Guam and Saipan. Guam is our base where we transship most of the cargo or all of the cargo for Micronesia. So we recognize that we are a critical lifeline to the islands, and we take that very seriously. So as the cargo comes in, say yesterday into Guam, the Port Authority of Guam, Customs, everyone over there is working hard to make sure it now transships to go to the other islands. So today we're loading the ship for Saipan, and tomorrow we'll be loading the ships for the rest of Micronesia. Again, this is a weekly service that we're committed to, and we have been committed to. So I just like everybody, and I've been saying this to my friends and family, don't hoard, don't worry. We come in here weekly. We have a great on-time performance. We come in on Tuesdays almost every week. And again, just thanks for giving us the opportunity to keep the community informed. The folks out there are doing a great job, and wanted to thank all the people in the healthcare industry, the port, especially like GFD and GPD, right? They're doing a great job. So everybody out there, give them the half a day spirit. I know a lot of donations are going out to them, but let's continue to thank them for their great work and have a positive attitude with them.
Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Bernie.
And thank you, to you as well as all of your staff over there at Matson.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Be safe.
Bye-bye.
Wash your hands. All right, Bernie from Matson there. 743. There was that bill that a bunch of the Republican senators introduced.
Yeah, I don't have it up in front of me, but yeah, Senator Telo Taitagui, Senator Luis Muña, and Will Castro, they had introduced a bill I believe it was yesterday, to provide some relief to the island's business community. And so obviously they're not in session and until further notice, but they introduced this bill, and I think we're hoping to get the minority leader, Senator Tello Taitagui, on the phone to kind of break that down for us. But she did, I'm just reading this, have a conference call, I believe, with the lieutenant governor.
Yeah, so let's bring up Minority Leader Senator Tello Taitagui. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, Chris. Good morning, Sabrina.
Hafa.
Can we just go right to this conference call that you were able to have with Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio, and maybe just unpack that for us?
Yes, this was yesterday morning.
Mm-hmm. And so this one wasn't. This was dealing with housing relief, right?
Yes, absolutely. This was regarding that. I'm getting a lot of calls coming my way in Texas regarding evictions. One in particular the other day, and so I called up the lieutenant governor and asked him what is the administration doing at this point to try and address this issue. And they said it's a legal issue that they're trying to get through. They're going into a meeting to discuss this. They'll keep me updated. I asked him, please, this is probably one of the biggest issues right now that people of Guam are facing in this crisis. I'm getting calls from individuals who've been told that they have a week, and first you have to give them 30 days notice in any kind of eviction. So I said, you give me the number of that landlord, and I'll talk to that landlord myself. So working toward that, we were doing some research ourselves to try and see what we can do to help this along, push this along, and we found a resolution from California, signed by the governor of California. So I sent that over to Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio to review and see how they're doing it in California to avoid putting a moratorium on evictions during this crisis.
So you're saying that Governor Newsom, he signed an executive order for a moratorium, right? On
that would
how long?
Yes, Sabrina, that would be the well, in California they're doing it up to the end of the May 31st,
right,
2020. But that would be the fastest way to do it right now, is to put in an executive order. Then for us to go into session and incorporate a law, let it go through the process. And we're even trying to find ways to get back into session and address some of these issues. But the fastest way right now is for the governor to do what she's been doing these last, couple of weeks, is putting in executive orders.
Okay. And let's go into the bill that was introduced to help the business community. Can you break that down?
It was myself and Senator Muñoz, as well as Senator Castro, put together legislation to try and put together a Guam stimulus package and incorporate everybody. It's more like an economic stabilization measure that would benefit not just one group of people, but everyone in general in Guam, from the business community to our community itself, our working class community. And this bill has a lot of components in it to address. And one was the reduction of the BPT down to 4%. But the difference when this one is it would go down to it would implement 4% until the end of the year, not the end of the fiscal year, which ends on September 1st, but December 31st, 2020. And this is because we know this crisis is probably not going to, taper down until another month or so. And that would only give businesses a few months until the end of the fiscal year to try and recover. What we're trying to do is give them at least 6 months to try and recover from this crisis. And that was when I wanted 3%, trying to get my colleagues to agree to 3% at least to the end of the fiscal year, but that could change. If this legislation gets on the floor, I will make an amendment to 3%. I mean, this is in circumstances that we are in right now requires something very dramatic, and that is that 3%. But we settled to 4 because our intent is to try and get this on the floor. and be addressed by our other colleagues.
Wendell, can you kind of, Senator, maybe, we had talked to a few of your colleagues yesterday about this effort, this apparently gargantuan effort to figure out how you guys can go into session. And I know there's just so many different schools of thought, and talking to some of your colleagues, I'm hearing one of them is like, oh, well, the governor's calling the shots. Let's let her just call the shots. And then some people are saying like, no, we need to get to work. This is when we're needed. So, we tried to get the rules chair on this morning. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But in discussing it yesterday, is that kind of what needs to go on? Is they need to go in and, look at the rules and reinvent the wheel, so to speak?
Absolutely. That's what needs to be done first if we're going to try and attempt doing session through, telecommunications.
Right.
To go through that route, we have to go through standing rules to change those standing rules first, and that to allow us to do that.
What's your thought, though, Senator? Do you think that you guys should be going into session? I mean, we got a budget that's... are we still doing the budget, or...
that's another thing, too, because the law requires that the governor provide us the CER request or update report every 20th of the month. And that was one of the questions I asked the governor during our conference video call on Monday, was what is the report? Do you have the report out? She said the report is done. It's ready for the month of March on the 20th, which is due, and would give it to us. But I haven't seen it. I'm waiting for that report to come out. The other thing is that by law, in the event there's any change of revenue that's substantial to 3%, whether more than what's coming in projected revenue or less, she's required to provide us a budget that to alter the budget. So that is not until May. But the CER report, which is due March 20, which she said she had, would tell us what the financial condition now to date, or at least from April, of what our situation is right now. But we haven't got any of that. The only report that I received, and it's ironic because I received it through media, was a chart of the where she's pulling money out. The $4 million.
Right.
Did you guys receive that?
Yeah, we received it. Yeah.
You guys got that before I did.
That
was like,
a lady never tells.
I'm like, I need to follow you guys to find out all the information really from the legislature.
Senator. So now what we're seeing, and again, Senator Joe St. Augustine, he's another one of these guys who just doesn't respond. Frankly, it's ridiculous. I've been messaging Senator Joe St. Augustine since last year. And we ran into each other in passing, and he was like, I figured out how to deal with you, ignore you. And that's my Joe St. Augustine.
God.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and call.
So I've messaged him, all week, like, hey, we got a budget going on. I mean, if you don't want to sit in the hot seat and answer questions
you sure you
about
got the right phone number?
The finances, I'm pretty sure I got it, because when you call it, he's got that, hey, can't get to your call right now.
Here's what I suggest. Every time there's a budget hearing, and you guys have every right to do so, every time there's a budget hearing, then I suggest you guys come to that budget hearing. You don't just have the cameras and reporting it. Sit down. You're the community too. You sit down and you ask those questions. Sign in, testify, ask questions. That's your right.
Well, good idea. Well, you guys get the rules all figured out, and then we'll come to the hearing.
We'll come to the hearing and ask him the questions. I don't think he can dodge that.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, man. And and so going to this
it is ridiculous, and I'm so sorry to hear that. I'll do everything I can to find out information that you guys need. Just give me a call.
Right. Thank you. And you're very accessible, Senator. But just going back to this $4 million of the quarantine is now
Right.
Some of you guys are saying that the governor didn't have the authority to transfer that money. And that was the letter that came out from Senator St. Augustine, which is why I messaged him last night. I said, hey, you can't send letters around to the media and then go hide and not answer questions. It's not how it works.
Very true. Very true. As well, I saw that last night, and we're doing our own research to look at the law to find out if this is true to form. I've also sent a letter to the governor asking her. The question is, what gives her the authority to use any revenue, excess revenue from a budget? How is she able to use the FY19 revenue? According to us, our legal,
right?
They don't think it's true, and my next step is go to the Attorney General. So now here's another question to the governor, asking her where her authority is to use more than $100,000 every month, and total $600,000 a year. She did veto the bill that authorized her $1 million.
Right.
But the governor has transfer authority of, I believe it's 15% in the FY 2020 budget.
Right, Senator, but with this transfer authority, is it accurate to say that she's not able to transfer funds from education and the courts?
That part, that's what we're looking into as well. There's certain areas she can't transfer, like special funds, that the governor has no authority to. So it specifically has to state that the governor cannot transfer out. We know that the Flame fund was one of those things the governor cannot transfer out. The only thing I can think what she is doing at this point is she is transferring this money, putting it in certain agencies, and the agencies are writing the checks. That's the only way I can think that's happening.
Well, when we got that document, the first thing I did was send it around. I sent it to our, the Judiciary PIO, and comment that we had got from. Let me punch that up because I'm not sure if we had included that.
Okay.
But the comment we got was, as of right now, we're not in a position to comment as we were just recently made aware of the situation. Yeah. And then, we also reached out to the University of Guam, to Jonas, and I've got their statement, though. Read, I don't know if I read this, so let me read their statement on getting, I believe it's like $1 million. They got $1 million taken from their budget to help pay for their quarantine.
Again?
UOG statement here, it's our responsibility to contribute in any way we can. Through our funding or through our knowledge and skills, UOG is doing its part to assist our island community during this time of emergency, whether that be leading and working on the front lines of the response effort, coordinating donations for supplies and meals for our COVID-19 call health surveillance centers, or providing social and psychological services. UOG will continue to provide innovative ways to fulfill our mission during these challenging times. Our faculty, staff, and administrators are committed to combating the spread of the coronavirus. So they released a 3-paragraph statement without actually mentioning the transfer, but I think the gist of that was like, hey, whatever we got to do to help,
You want me to go back to the bill so we can?
Yeah, I know we'll wrap this up.
Out of the way. I'm sorry that we got a little bit sidetracked there, but I just want to finish off on this. We've been working on it all last week, and other than the BPT, which she has already said that she is not going to lower the BPT, and this is that she's doing other measures. Well, that's not going to be enough. And whether the governor says that, the part now that we need is 10 senators to say, yes, we do need to lower the BPT. 10 senators is what we need.
Do you think you can get that?
Governor to do it. We need 10 senators to realize that it's not just the business community that we're helping. We're helping our community, the people who could lose their jobs. You're watching businesses shut down because they can't afford to stay open. And that's the case, right? That's the case now with the coronavirus. Now, can you imagine, take the coronavirus out of the picture, and you see businesses shutting down because they cannot afford to stay open. It's too expensive to do business on Guam. People have already been closing their business. So that means all those jobs, all this help that is needed out there in the community for people who are losing their jobs, providing stimulus money to them because they don't have a job. Well, that's what's going to happen if she does not help the business community and listen to them. Everything that she's decided to do was done on her own, and a group of advisors that we don't even know who they are.
Yeah, she had said, Senator, she had said that she has business people advising her, but nobody knows who these business people are.
Not even the chamber, and they're the largest group of business people on this island.
She got the cool business people, not the ones who hate her. She's like, I need some yes folks. Yep. Hey, how's that? Is that a good idea, business? Okay, yep.
I was just about to say the yes ones.
Yeah.
And when I asked her that question a couple of weeks ago, when she came up with this 5 points or 4 points it was to help the business community, I said, "Did you work with the chamber on this?" And she didn't. I'll be meeting with them in a.
I mean, though, but to be fair, it's not like she has to, Senator. I mean, I just think that there's a lot of division, and a lot of it comes from her just refusing to give the chamber a seat at the table. I mean, she could just have them sit down. It would look so good, and then say no. You know what I mean? But
this is the majority of businesses. In Guam, of course, she needs to include the chamber. At least one person from the chamber. She might. Oh, I do have someone from the chamber. Yeah, but you have someone from the chamber that sits on the board. There's 20 people who sit on the board of the chamber. If you chose one of them, then at least they're at the table too, but it's not. So as we move on to the bill that we provided to try and provide some relief to the people of Guam and the businesses as well as the community, we also put in this legislation any kind of medical prescription drugs, healthcare, including fluids, syringe, surgical supplies, anything used for hospitals, for professional use for medical is exempt from business privilege, BPT, as well as use tax as we go through. And there is a sunset clause on December 31st, 2020 for this one too as well. And the other one that we incorporated, of course, the LEAC, and I spoke to Simon Sanchez regarding the LEAC. He's saying that there's a bond covenant issue, and I said, okay, well, we'll deal with that, but I'm happy to hear what GPA is doing. But the thing we need to ask CCU is, okay, you've come up with this decision to try and lower the rates. This is excellent, especially at a time like this. Now the next question is, how soon will PUC approve what CCU just did? Because sometimes it takes them 4 months.
Right, yeah.
And the legislation here, what we're doing is allowing the governor to go ahead and approve it right away without the PUC approval. Once CCU goes through a meeting and agree to lower any kind of rates, it can now go straight to the governor for approval. Doesn't have to go to the PUC, and that's what this is all about. It could be used even in the future, but there is a sunset clause on this one. Actually, I forgot to mention, Simon did tell me that the end of the month they're expecting the PUC to approve this.
Oh, well, that's like
crossed.
In 2 days.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed it does happen. He told me that, and I'm holding him to it. So,
well, we'll try to too. Senator, thank you so much. It's 8 o'clock. We got to run.
Okay, call me
Take care.
anytime, and I'll get some more information for you as much as I can to assist with the budget section of this. We're still waiting for that. Like I said,
Can you just put a message in your senator chat to tell Senator Joseph Augustine that check Chris Barnett's messages?
Okay, will do.
Okay.
I will do that.
In your senator chat.
Yeah, they have a senator chat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you guys do, right?
Yes, we do.
I'd love to be in that one, man.
Me too.
I'd love to be in that. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you again so much for all you guys are doing. We have some great news coming from the federal side. That's hope for us. And again, be safe out there, people everywhere. You go, wear a mask, use sanitizer, but most especially just social distancing is what's helping us right now at this point.
Okay, Senator, thank you.
Pray for a vaccine.
There you go.
Take care.
Go wash your hands. So 8:03. Yeah, I think how many times have they asked about this BPT thing? And I think now that we're seeing this federal aid coming out, and there's a lot of aid for businesses. I mean, I'm just guessing, judging by how the governor has acted in the past on this issue, I'm just guessing that her train of thought is probably like, hey, you guys are about to get so much assistance from the federal government, so don't even try and ask me to lower the BPT. That's what kind of I'm thinking. Hey, it's 8:03, Bree. Can we do that release, the JIC release, real quick, and then we'll take a break?
Okay, let me find it. But there's 5 confirmed cases, new confirmed cases that came out last night. In the breakdown, we have a total of 37 confirmed cases through public health, with 4 positive cases from the USS Theodore Roosevelt. The Public Health Medical Operations Team issued an important medical advisory given the number of positive cases of COVID-19 accelerating on island. Consider yourself possibly exposed if you have recently traveled or attended any mass gathering, such as church, fiestas, small parties, or other gatherings within the past 14 to 30 days.
What?
Yeah, for the next 14 days, stay home, self-quarantine, and monitor yourself for symptoms. If you feel any of these signs and symptoms of COVID-19, contact your doctor or healthcare clinic. Some of the symptoms include, but are not limited to, fever, sore throat, cough, runny nose, and shortness of breath. Other symptoms could include abdominal pain, chest pain, headache, chills, and congestion. Again, this is within the past 14 to 30 days. If you have attended any mass gathering, again, church, fiestas, small parties, or other gatherings, just to self-quarantine. Due to a lack of testing supplies until commercial testing becomes available, Public Health's lab is not going to be testing mildly sick people with symptoms. Patients having mild illness are advised to stay home and to not go to the emergency rooms and hospitals. Again, people who are sick with mild symptoms should stay home, self-quarantine for 14 days from the first day that their symptoms began, and longer if symptoms persist more than 14 days. Until further advised, do not go to clinics for testing unless you have serious symptoms.
I'm just trying to do the remembering in my head. Have I been to
what did you
a
do?
mass gathering or a small party? I mean, a small party on Guam.
Or
that's
other
usually
social gatherings. I know
100
that I
people.
have been, but
Oh, wow.
yeah, I was working, so
Yeah, well, I was working too. I haven't been to a fiesta. I haven't been to church. I attended church virtually. So, but this is kind of what they were saying.
the guy with the candle.
I got a candle in my
Did you hear him, Mom? He hasn't been to church.
Yeah, well, okay, because we're streaming it. All right.
Okay.
But this is kind of what they've been saying, is just assume everyone has it. And, from that release, that is kind of assuming everyone has it.
Yeah.
Okay. 806. We'll do some news. We're KUM-FM, Agatna, Guam, containing COVID. Good morning.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
Civil Defense Administrator Charles Esteves acknowledged they're running low on PPEs, but he says a shipment should arrive in 1 to 3 weeks.
At this time, the priority for personal protective equipment is for medical health providers, first responders, then all others on a case-by-case basis. Additionally, we do ask that people do not hoard PPE. I can tell you that based on what we received in terms of how the virus works and how it's contracted and spread, is that if you practice social distancing and you're not in sustained contact with anyone who is COVID-19 positive, then your risk for contracting the virus is significantly low.
The governor assures that despite the low supply, the medical providers and first responders are getting the PPEs that they need. Meanwhile, Esteves says they're also asking private businesses that use PPEs, such as dental clinics, optometrists, and veterinarians, if they have any to spare. He says they're also checking on international vendors, including from South Korea and China. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto. Hafa for everyone. Nestor Licanto here, and our guest today is Mr. Kaz Endo, who came up with this really cool idea, and I'll ask him to share that. But it's called hashtag support food to go Guam. Hafa Kaz.
Hafa day, Nestor. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, sir?
Okay, considering the circumstances, we're bunkered down, but modern technology allows us to feel like we're just on a long plane ride.
Yeah. So let me ask you to explain how you came up with the idea for this social media push that you're doing, and tell us a little bit about what it's about.
Sure. I've got a lot of friends out there who own restaurants. Some are operators, some actually own the restaurants themselves. And during this time, they're having a tough time. And for me, I usually cook at home. I'm a homebody now. I'm getting up there, so I don't really go out as much as I used to. But I said, hey, during this time, they need some support. So I decided to maybe every lunch head out for to go. The problem was nobody was really updating their pages, and they were just too busy. They were shorthanded, and I couldn't find any information. So my daughter works at one of the places, and she said, hey, why don't you come and get some lunch at Moz? And so I did, and I started thinking, what would be nice is to have a Facebook page that everybody can sort of crowdsource and put on information of where they went to eat, and not necessarily provide critical.
Stepped up their game in this time of public health emergency, day 11 of mandatory social isolation. And I wanted to play this one from a man, Joe Garrido, one of the great young shining Chamorro music stars on Guam. And this is something that, I'm just going to let him do the talking. You check it out, and we'll come back with more of Containing COVID right here on I-94, where KUAM-FM Agotni, Guam.
Buenas and day, everyone. My name is Joe Garrido. Sunday morning, I got a text message from a firefighter asking if I can create a song for the first responders, medical workers, and everyone else that has to work during this time, because they too have to go home to their families. At the end of the text message, it said, because music is powerful. And again, I agree, music is very powerful. And that's the reason why I created this song, was because I was asked to, and in hopes for peace and understanding during this time, I wanted to create this song. So if you are one of the frontliners here on our island protecting our people, I want to personally thank you. And I just pray that the Lord brings restoration upon those that are sick and their families. And I pray for safety upon our first responders and those working the front line. So I hope everyone enjoys the song.
Tao Guan Ai tao Fan mano zuzut Poguna momentu Fan di mu Janatan hulu Gisat basyonta As Jesus Cristo Ay justoda Ay jusayna Na sofu Itaw-taw mo gitsetsu farmacia, enfermera, tautawafi, polisia, nasusia, nagagihaw gifionia, navan homlu, at susihan ni man malongo, Zon protehi, ifamagun itanu, Zon protehi, iman omku itanu.
Responders, of course, he comes from a family of firefighters. So
his brother's a firefighter. His father's, I think is his father retired? I'm not sure, but so
good
that was
stuff,
a wonderful
Joe.
song.
Yeah, good stuff. Let's. I think we have Lillian Posadas of GMH. Good morning, Lillian. Do we? Hold on.
Lillian, are you there?
Oh man, I gotta call her back. Yeah,
we lost her. Okay.
So go ahead. You do your thing. I'm gonna try and get her back on.
Right. So we wanted to bring Lillian on to talk about, just to give us an update on whether or not there was going to be any sort of a move for the pregnant women, the labor and delivery ward over at GMH to GRMC. As we heard from the governor, the Guam Memorial Hospital in their new cure plan has been designated as the hospital where COVID patients are going to be taken, and the Guam Regional Medical City has been designated basically as the COVID-free hospital. So during a press conference 2 days ago, the question was asked whether or not the pregnant women and babies were going to be moved to GRMC, and Dr. Mike Cruz, who is the chief medical advisor to the governor, did confirm that discussions were underway to make this move, but the plans are not yet set in stone because, according to Lillian, there's so many details that have to be ironed out if in fact they were going to do this. And so currently there are protocols in place for expectant mothers, where GMH has made adjustments to its protocol for admitting expectant mothers who are in labor. Patients are asked to proceed to the emergency room, where they will be assessed for symptoms of COVID-19. If the expectant mother meets the criteria for COVID-19 person under investigation, the patient will be further assessed in triage by nursing staff. This to ensure minimal exposure to others. The expectant mother will be fitted with proper PPE and taken into the labor and delivery room through a separate hallway from
Okay, I got Lillian. Let's get Lillian up here.
Okay.
Morning, Lillian.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
So we understand you're very, very busy, but just wanted to kind of get an update on some things at the hospital.
I thought all of this media is supposed to go through Jig.
Yeah, Lillian, but you called us the other day unprompted, so we're just trying to get the people that, we feel like the people of Guam need to hear from, and there's just a lot of runaround with the JIC, so we're trying to go direct to the source. So we do have, yeah.
Wait, I did not call you guys. You guys called me. I don't call you guys.
Right, we called you, and so we're hoping that we can get any sort of an update on what's happening at the Guam Memorial Hospital. In particular, we've asked the question during press conferences regarding what is the plans, or if there are in fact plans to move the pregnant women and babies over to GRMC, the COVID-free hospital.
Okay, we'll begin with that one. And as I said at the governor's conference, press conference yesterday, there has been no agreement, no definitive decision at all to move the MCH services over to GRMC. It's just discussion to see how best we can, continue the provision, the delivery of MCH services to the MCH clients on island. At the same time, continue to manage the, individuals who need to be treated for either POI or COVID. So right now we are managing it, we are handling it, and we're dealing with it, and we are minimizing as much exposure to the MCH population. So right now we don't need to move them, and so there's no agreement, there's no decision. We still continue the services here.
There was something that Dr. Mike Cruz mentioned during one of the press conferences, though, that, like you said, there are discussions, and there's been tours, I believe, that have been conducted. I know Dr. Shea was on our program earlier, and he mentioned, and he's the head of OB, right, over at GMH. Right, so there's tours that have been conducted over at GRMC?
Well, there have been, and not only for MCH, there have been tours from the very beginning, because we also talked about moving and transferring the SNU patients over to GRMC, and that did not happen because it was just too complicated of a process. It was just extremely complicated, and so we needed to move fast. So then the quickest and the most effective way and safest way and less complicated, we moved the patients over here to our acute care facility. And so that's what we did. So, again, it's an extremely complicated, especially maternal child health. You've got 4 different specialty units: labor and delivery, the OB nursery that includes neonatal intensive care unit for the neonates. We've got the postpartum area, and we've got the pediatric unit that also includes pediatric intensive care unit. So those are 4 specialized maternal child health areas that, to move them, it's an extremely complicated process, and it's going to take a lot of, thinking into it and the details to make sure that we do it smoothly, and it's going to take time. We don't have much time.
Right.
So we're dealing with it. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I just wanted to ask. I know it's complicated. You're saying it's going to take some time, but are measures in place to keep, the COVID-19 stuff over maybe on that side of the hospital? And I mean, just people want to know: are expected mothers, pediatric patients, are they safe from exposure?
Absolutely. That's the one thing that we want to make sure is minimize the exposure. And we have a process, and I know Dr. Shea, in his wisdom, is trying to, help us out. But his suggestion to have these pregnant mothers come through the front is not feasible. It's not safe. We have a process that we have instituted about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when we started having the POI individuals come in. And so, therefore, we are, again, making sure that we minimize their exposure when they come in laboring and ready to deliver. We minimize. We moved the pediatric patients to an area that minimizes that they don't have any patients who are COVID or POI in that area. Nursery itself, OB nursery, they are in an enclosed and confined and secured area on the second floor, away from the COVID care area that we have opened up for these POI and COVID-based individuals. So yes, absolutely, we're making sure that they are protected, they are safeguarded, and the exposure is minimized.
Well, we certainly thank you for providing those reassurances to the community.
Lillian, thank you so much. I wanted to just ask, so we're doing the limited COVID-19 testing for priority groups, and again, we've gone over this the last few days. Those include a lot of people, maybe in ICU, GMH, elderly patients. Do you know the results that we got last night? How many of those were fit into the different categories of the priority testing? Do you know? Do you have that info?
You know what? I don't handle that. It's public health who makes that determination, and they have a criteria. And they work with a team of physicians establishing that criteria. So it's not just public health sole decision and sole discretion. It's a team of doctors that they work with. Right.
So I guess, I mean...
We've asked that, they give GMH and GRMC priority because, they're in the hospital, and we need to know whether or not they are positive or negative.
Correct.
So that we can then take the appropriate direction. Because if they are negative, then we can move them out of the, COVID areas or the care one. That's where we keep the individuals who are POI. And so it helps us with the flow and the direction of where we can then get these patients to.
Right. And so I guess you might not know where they are, but do you know if they have finished testing everyone that fits the criteria at Guam Memorial Hospital?
Yes, they have. They certainly have.
Okay.
Do you have any results? I know the last time we spoke with you, you had mentioned and confirmed the one patient that came in with for other complaints aside from being the flu, and but he was hospitalized anyway. I believe on the 3rd floor in a private room, and then it later turned out that he through a radiological screening and so then he turned out positive for COVID, and you were conducting an investigation to determine how many health medical staff had contact with that individual, and if they exhibited signs or symptoms, they were going to be tested. Do you have any latest information on that?
Absolutely, yes. All the 3 nursing staff who were considered high-risk exposure because they were in direct and a personal up close and personal contact with the individual, with the patient, and so those results came back and they're all negative.
Oh, thank
so
goodness.
We're very, very pleased that again, no exposure to those individuals who were considered high risk. So it's a big relief, and it shows that people are really very cognizant and making sure that they minimize or they at least try and protect themselves. With hand washing, with at least face mask, and what CDC guidelines says that even if they're not in an isolation room because we don't have it, but at least in a private room. And so it was evidence that what happened certainly worked out.
Well, that's good. We're glad that you guys take the precautions, and it looks like in this instance those precautions worked out for the better.
Yes, it certainly did. And so again, it's evidence that people who are concerned, who are anxious of the exposure, if it's a low exposure, even just walking by the room, you're low exposure. So, just again, alleviate that anxiety and that fear.
How many people, COVID positive patients, do you have currently at the hospital?
You know what? I had that number, but it's on my phone because the nursing supervisor, we're right now in the Care 1, which is our PUI area, individuals who are categorized as PUI, waiting for test results. There are 5 individuals in there. In our 4th floor, Care 3, that's where we have all the COVID positive patients. There are 7 there. Then up at SMF, we transferred 2 yesterday who, met the criteria of being afebrile, no fever for 48 hours, no need for oxygen for 48 hours. So there are 4 now up at SNF.
Okay. Is there anything else that you wanted to get out to the community?
Just to continue the social distancing and the hand washing and, protecting, minimizing as much as possible the spread of this condition.
Lillian, we also know that there were several efforts out there to give donations to doctors and nurses at the hospital who, are stretched so thin. We're hearing, people doing double shifts and all that stuff. Is there a way that we can have the public, show support for the staff at the hospital and the healthcare workers, but still kind of adhere to the social distancing and all that stuff?
Right. Well, we've been really blessed because many eateries and many restaurants have been donating meals to our employees here who take care of the COVID patients and up at SMF. So we've just been really very fortunate that, these companies, these businesses, these restaurants have been very gracious in providing the meals. There have been organizations, alumni associations who are also getting donations to procure some PPEs that are a little bit more costly for, but very good, high quality PPEs. So again, it's great. The community is just wonderful coming together to really help us get through this, and we will get through this.
Well, thank you, Lillian. We're praying for you guys over there, and I know you're so busy, and thank you for your time. We really appreciate it, Lillian.
Thank you, too.
Take care.
Okay, Esther.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
All right. Thank you so much, Lillian Posadas. And hey,
she just took our call. We called her up. We just wanted to get an update, and she provided that. So we really appreciate her.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think we should be in the business of apologizing for trying to call these government officials. We're just doing our job. So
right. So thanks again to Lillian and everybody at the Guam Memorial Hospital for helping contain COVID on Guam. Again, we are up to 37 cases tested by the Department of Public Health that turned up positive, and then we have the 4 from the USS Theodore Roosevelt that were, I guess, medevaced.
Imported. Yeah,
Right.
if this was dengue, they would be imported cases.
And then we want to go ahead and stress the message from the medical advisory group, informing the public that given the number of positive cases of COVID-19 accelerating, everyone should consider yourself exposed if you have recently traveled or if you have attended any mass gatherings such as church, fiestas, small parties, or other gatherings within the past 14 to 30 days. For the next 14 days, you're advised to stay home, self-quarantine, and monitor yourself for symptoms. If you're exhibiting, for example, flu-like symptoms, due to the lack of testing supplies until commercial testing becomes available, public health, their lab is not going to be testing mildly sick people with symptoms. Patients having mild illness are advised to stay home and to not go to the emergency rooms and hospitals. People who are sick with mild symptoms should stay home again and self-quarantine for 14 days from the first day that their symptoms began, and longer if symptoms persist more than 14 days until further advised. Again, do not go to clinics for testing unless you have serious symptoms.
All right, Jason.
Okay, I want to give a little shout out and really good 2 users on our chat stream in particular. Dominic Guzman says, in all caps, he goes, Guam people are really generous. That is absolutely true. We take care of our own here. We do not leave our people behind. So once again, thank you to Lillian to very graciously giving some of our time. Speaking of giving, Clara Quintanilla Mendiola, who has been really active this morning, starting a lot of side conversations, bringing up a lot of good topics. She's saying, thank you 76 Circle K for donating masks and PPEs to our frontline people. Very generous from the corporate community. And I wanted to bring this up, Sabrina, because you and I actually took a break a couple days ago and we went to 76 Circle K to go get lunch. And at least at the Dedido 70K Circle 6. Remember that?
What a nice lunch.
We went to get ice cream and some water.
Hey, hot dogs, man. What protein keeps you going. But the cashier staff there, they have now implemented, normally it's just you and the cashier. It's almost like you would see at an old school bank teller or maybe like a Western Union or something like that. They have like the big
plastic screen.
Yeah, like I don't think it's glass. It may be like plexiglass or like something like that. But they're basically doing that, and then you pass the items underneath. They scan
but
them.
then the plastic screen is only about this wide, so on either side you can. And so when I was in there, I don't know what for, but grabbing water or something, and I went up to the window. I was like, "Can I just go around the side?" And she's like, "No, sir, stand."
But you know what? Funny. I mean, that's again, it's creative thinking, and that's what our community is really starting to do these days. Because
it's not just there though. I saw it this morning when I saw by Mobile a big plastic screen as well.
Right.
They had masks on, gloves, everything.
Very good.
I go to Shell Foodies, and every morning I always stop at Shell Foodies, and I get everything that they have there that's super cool. And when I went in there this morning, the cashier had the gloves and the mask, and so they're definitely precautions are being taken.
Mm-hmm.
And the spam masubi, I'm assuming, is still piping hot.
It's so it really is such a change how things are operating, and it's like the new normal, right? When you walk outside, it was my first time going to Payless yesterday after I got off work, and you see almost everybody had on a mask.
Mm-hmm.
People just going inside. I even had a mask. I put on my gloves. I went, I'm taking it, to the next level here.
Right, yeah.
But I want to be prepared. I got to go home to my son,
And it's not like people are, saying like, 6 feet, stay away from me. Everybody's keeping it very, very civil, and everyone's like, do you need something? Please go ahead of me. You were here before I was, and everything like that. And these are very trying times, and the Archbishop used again, his words were, it's very, very strange.
Strange.
Yeah.
I exercised that though when I was at Payless. I went to the aisle. I was like, turn. I'm not going to go down that aisle. Wait.
People aren't getting silly, and they're not.
Yeah.
We're being very, very neighborly about this. So congratulations to all of you.
I picked up lunch yesterday, and there's a restaurant right over here. You come in, and the way it's set up is the cashier is like all the way at the other end of the restaurant. But when you come in, the cashier's like, no, stay over there, have a seat. So they have tables set up by the door, and then they bring the food over to like a middle table, and that's where the exchange of money and food happens. So.
Because, some people are also bringing it up in our comment stream throughout the day. I mean, there's people who have been with us since the very moment we went on. So for all of you hardcore people, thank you for staying home. Thank you for taking care of yourselves, and thank you for interacting with us. But there have been a lot of people in the comment stream saying, my daughter, my Nino has to work. They're in certain industries where, you have to go in and you're interacting with a variety of consumers from all walks of life. And they're like, can we make sure that we stay safe and that we're sanitized? So a lot of employers are actually taking a lot of precautions to make sure that their frontline people are safe.
Right. Thanks, Jason. Bree, we had a comment. I know this came up in the press conference yesterday. Good morning, guys. Cases still rising. Please close the airport now and no more inbound flights. But during that press conference yesterday, the governor, did she basically say that there aren't any more flights coming from PI?
Right. That's what she said.
I think they got the memo, right? That that was kind of the point, is we get all these people in quarantine to post videos and complain about it, and then that gets back to PI. Mm-hmm. People maybe not going to get on a plane coming here.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of quarantine, I spoke with Dave Saplani. He called me last night. I can't even remember because I was asleep, and then I woke up, and that's fine. That's okay, Dave. But Dave called me and he said, Bree, there are 2 more buses. Of at least the time that he saw, there were 2 buses that came in, and he was asking me if I knew if they were new arrivals and it was sometime last night. I didn't know, and he didn't think they came from the Wyndham, and I'm not sure if they came from the Santa Fe. So that's one thing that I want to follow up today. How many more people are
right?
If anybody else is coming in from wherever else, because I think if you're not coming from the Philippines, according to the protocols, if you come from a COVID affected area other than the Philippines, you
got to have the certificate, right?
Well, I think it's if you have a health certificate, or not health certificate, the medical clearance certificate,
right? But
I think it's voluntary quarantine. You have to sign the paper and stay home for 14 days.
Yeah.
Well, but again, like the governor said yesterday, there are no flights coming in from the Philippines.
Right. I wanted to share this with you guys. We had her on the show yesterday. Health Chair Senator Teresa Lahi coming out with this letter. I don't know if you saw this. Writing to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Guam, Justice Carbolito, to request a consideration of a moratorium on eviction actions due to the COVID-19 outbreak and resulting orders mandating non-essential employees stay home, and the impact to small businesses that aren't allowed to open. And then I thought it was interesting here because she cited something that's happening stateside, Bree. It says a moratorium on evictions is being considered across the nation and in Congress, led by a New York City chief administrative law judge, who on March 15th, this judge announced that all evictions proceedings and pending eviction orders shall be suspended statewide until further notice. So that's kind of what we had heard with the courts being closed. People we were talking to were saying, hey, they can't evict anyone anyway because they can't take them to court because the court's closed. So this seems like more of maybe a legit front office way to kind of address it, as opposed to just crossing your fingers and hoping that, nobody gets sued and evicted. So
yeah,
that's good. 8:37, we're going to take a little break. I know that the Catholic Church has a hotline that they put up.
Yeah, they do.
So we're going to get Father Mike on that. I think
Father Mike Crisostomo's coming up.
He's
really
in prayer
shortly.
right now. Who else do we got? I put another message into Senator Joe St. Augustine.
Yeah, I did too.
Did you?
I'll try calling him maybe on the break.
Right. Yeah. So.
Father Mike.
Okay.
Father Mike?
Yeah, we're gonna get Father Mike. We're gonna take a break. 8:38. Honestly, I got to use the bathroom. Something very crazy.
TMI.
So, okay. It's containing COVID. KUAM News. Good morning.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
Civil Defense Administrator Charles Esteves acknowledged they're running low on PPEs, but he says a shipment should arrive in 1 to 3 weeks.
At this time, the priority for personal protective equipment is for medical health providers, first responders, then all others as on a case-by-case basis. Additionally, we do ask that people do not hoard PPE. I can tell you that basically.
Thanks for watching on our Facebook live feed. Want to bring Polly Mike onto the show. Good morning, Polly.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
I'm throwing you an air almond right now through the phone.
God bless you.
Let's talk about this hotline. Air
so
almond is a thing, Sabrina.
Okay.
So this hotline that the church has stood up, can you kind of just walk us back to the beginning? How did you guys come up with this idea, Father Mike?
Sure. Ever since the Archbishop had asked all the masses to be suspended, our priests and our people, we're kind of, there's this feeling of disconnect and people wanting to come to Mass, wanting to be in church and wanting to be, of course, at the Holy Eucharist and things like that. And so it just dawned on me that how can we provide this a service to our people, even in the midst of this whole pandemic? And we thought about a hotline, or a helpline is what we're calling it, to be able to just have people connect, a place where people can call in and ask for spiritual needs, or even just to talk to someone, even if it's just getting a mass intention out there. Can you pray for my loved one? Can you pray for my kids, or whatever it may be? Or as we experienced yesterday, we just launched this yesterday, we had numerous phone calls already. People really didn't think this was real. It was like unheard of. So they were asking the validity of the actual poster that went out and whether or not it was legit. It is legit. It's very much supported by the Archbishop. This is a way, again, to stay connected to our people, and during this time where we're separated physically, where there's, of course, no physical contact. And so we're trying to find every means. As you know, we have our live stream masses, but it seems like that's just not enough. And we're hoping that through this hotline or helpline, people can actually talk to someone and then be able to receive whatever blessings or graces that may come from that.
Polly, I wanted to ask you here, maybe a little bit of a deep dive, but how affected are the island's faithful? And I want to make kind of like a comparison here with working out at the gym, right? When I don't like to work out, I actually hate it. But when you do it with other people, you kind of come together and it becomes and I feel like with praying and faith and the church, it's very, very similar. My mom is, I like to call her a diehard Catholic, but, she does her prayers and stuff. But when they come together under, the roof of God's house, it's way different than what we're seeing now with the social media. And like you said, I feel like people are reaching a point where that just isn't enough anymore. And I think this hotline of you guys, it couldn't have come at a better time. So when people are calling, and when you're also talking to your parishioners out there, how hard are they struggling with not being able to go to Mass and not being able to come together in the ways that we're so used to doing?
It has had a tremendous impact, Chris. People are missing that congregation feeling. They're missing coming together, even though they may have sometimes we take for granted coming to church and seeing people there, but there's that feeling of being part of a community that they're missing. And it's an element that we struggled with because I'm sure it was very hard for Archbishop to cancel all the masses. But it was necessary to comply with the governor's executive order to be able to save our people. One of our parishioners says, "Father, don't give it to fear. Don't give it to all of that." And I said, it's not because of fear. I replace fear with faith, and that's why we're doing this. Is because we have faith that God will take care of all of this. God is much bigger than this virus, and we just got to kind of have patience and cooperation and put together our spiritual life, and maybe this is the time to do it. God has given us the time. We've always complained how busy we are. Well, God has given us the time to be with our spouses, to be with our children, to be with our family, and let's take this time and take advantage of it.
Father, I have a question. I noticed that this is a national toll-free number. Who's answering the phones?
Believe it or not, it's actually a program at the call center that our Director of Stewardship Development had put together. It is manned by 3 of us priests and 2 lay faithful that all 5 of us are standing by to entertain the call. So it goes to a certain number first, it goes to one of the priests, then another priest, and it just kind of goes right down the line, whoever is available to be able to respond to that call. So we're working out the kinks on it, but I think we're coming to a point where we're pretty cool at it, and it's I received a call yesterday afternoon from a woman who just wanted to be heard, wanted to talk to someone because she's been isolated in her house since this whole pandemic, and she just wanted to talk to someone, and she was really happy that she was getting a local priest, and she thought she was getting someone local, someone off island, someone in the mainland.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, this is national toll-free number, so I wasn't sure if it was a local.
The technology is advanced, Bree, where you can get a 1-800 on Guam.
That's
crazy, huh?
Thank you.
Hey.
You have local priests who are handling it right now.
I see.
All right.
And so some of the questions, it says there, can address questions about anointing of the sick, right?
Correct. So in the event that we because of the pandemic and because of the virus, the level of threat, we have certain priests that have been trained now and certified by public health to go into quarantine areas. And once we are allowed to do so, these priests will be able to visit the sick, especially those that have been affected and who are close to death. And they'll be able to go in there. All of our other priests, we've asked to stand down and be able to let these priests do it because they have the protective gearing, they have the masks, they have the gloves and gowns, so they'll be able to go in there and the training to be able to protect themselves and to protect others as well. We've suspended, Archbishop has suspended the ministry to the sick for now,
right?
Only to protect those of the sick families that are there at home, because a priest can be a transmitter, can be a carrier, and we don't want to expose that to our families.
What is the status of Father Jeff? Can you speak to that?
Sure. I just spoke with him the other day. Father Jeff is doing fine. He is showing no symptoms whatsoever. I think he's enjoying his vacation time, if you will. So he's doing good.
How about you, Polly Mike? You kind of sound like you got a stuffy nose there.
I do. It's just the morning sinus and everything. So it's just I'm in my kitchen right now, just trying to put together some breakfast and coffee. But I'm doing good other than that.
Father Mike, going back to the anointing of the sick, I mean, tough question here, but has anybody passed without getting, being able to get the last rites because you guys are on this stand down and under these social isolation orders?
Actually, the first patient, God bless her, we know the family, of course, and she wasn't anointed with the oils, but she was blessed. Actually, that was the patient that Father Jeff visited, but she was blessed because Father Jeff couldn't go in. But even at that, Chris, even if someone does not receive the sacrament, our Holy Father just recently has reiterated this, that just because you haven't been anointed, we entrust that person to God's mercy. And God ultimately is the one that accepts all of us, right? So he's above all of this, and we just entrust the soul of this person and others who may have died without the sacrament.
Father Mike, a lot of Catholics out there, you kind of lose their way certain parts of the year, and then it's times like this during Lent, Easter, Christmas, where we kind of pop back up and be like, oh, hey, here we are, we want to go to Mass. What would your message be to those part-time faithful who were anticipating kind of re-upping their spiritual currency, if you will, during this Lenten season?
Chris, we're all God's children, and God bless them if they find the need to come back to church. God bless them if they feel that God is in their lives. God has not abandoned us. In fact, just yesterday's readings talks about how our God is with us. And in spite of us not going to church, our God will always be with us. In spite of us leaving him, he has not left us. So my message, don't give up on God. Continue to persevere in your faith.
Okay.
Thank you, Father.
I did have one extra question. Just going through the list of things that people can call and if they have questions about anointing of the sick, last rites, reconciliation. Okay, confession. Okay, that's the one I was wondering if you could call for
All
confession.
right, yeah.
Because
Okay,
Chris
I
was
knew you were
mentioning
gonna
how
ask
he
that
wanted to
question.
call.
Yeah, I need a couple hours, though. I don't know.
So confession, we've done we're doing that by appointments only so that we can be able to control the crowd and control individuals from coming in or being next to each other. So, and we are behind a protective screen. Usually, most confessionals have a screen with a cloth on it, and so that's normally in place. But we're asking people for now to just stay home. As you heard the doctors talking about it, just stay home, stay within your homes. We'll get this through. Well, we'll get through it, and confessions will be made available more so. But if you really find the need that you need to confess your sins, our Holy Father said yesterday in a video, go to God, go to our Father in heaven, because he will forgive you of your sins as well.
Right. Okay. So you can't do the confession over the phone.
Sorry.
Nice try, Bree. Bree's trying to get a confession right now. She's like, I'm hoarding hand sanitizer.
Well, if you do it over WhatsApp, it is encrypted. They do guarantee security.
Okay.
Okay. Father Mike, this is Jason, and we do appreciate the work that you and your colleagues are doing. But the last time I actually had the good fortune of interviewing you, if you do recall, was another crisis. Was when we had the North Korea missile. Those 2 very, very tense weeks. When our island was, really on edge. And I remember asking you when I interviewed you downtown, and I said, Father, there's going to be a lot of people of the faithful who are going to be looking to church and looking to faith, for guidance and for to be uplifted and for hope. But there are also going to be a lot of people who have either never prayed or never sought communication with God in probably many, many years. And there's also going to be a lot of people who have never done it before. To
Right.
those crowds and for people for whom prayer is not like a normal part of their routine, what kind of guidance would you give to them?
I would say to all of them, and many that I know of, again, don't give up on humanity. Don't give up on the goodness of people. Don't give up on what the efforts of our doctors are doing, our nurses and our caregivers, our first responders. Looking at the goodness of society, we have to focus on let's work together, let's be at peace with each other, and put aside our differences. Now is the time to be able to do that. And I hope that we can stand down and be together. And though we're not physically with each other, I think technologically we can be there. And that's why this helpline was established, Jason, was so that we can stay connected to people like that and people who are in need, who may not know how to return or even just have trouble even praying. Our priests are standing by to do that.
Thank you so much, Polly Mike. We're going to let you finish drinking your coffee, and you seem like a poached eggs kind of priest.
Actually, I'm more of an over hard, over easy.
I stand corrected.
But thank you guys, Jason and Sabrina and Chris. Thank you, KOM, for everything you guys have been done as well. You've been great to our church, great to our faith and our people, especially with our live stream at Cathedral. Thank you very much for all of that.
Hogamos, Polly, Hogamos. Okay, there you go. Father Mike Sosimo.
And you can watch the live stream Monday through Friday. Jason, 10
in the afternoon. They are very, very good. I mean, the church is absolutely precise when it comes to starting that mass on time.
Mm-hmm.
You see it go live on their Facebook page. We share the streams every weekday when they have the 12:10 mass, and then we carry on KUM TV 8, KUM TV 11, and on Facebook Live the Sunday morning mass. And they are incredibly well attended. And we've been talking about this the last couple of days. It may be very, very awkward for you to attend mass that way, but once you do it once you're in there for a couple of minutes, and even Father Ron Richards, who gave the homily last week, he said, this is a little bit strange for me.
Yeah.
I'm used to preaching before the congregation. I kind of I play off the crowd, for lack of a better term, and it's just me and the lector. But once you do it, and once you see that there is a sense of community even if electronically and even if virtually and everything like that, you get the same feeling within you. Your spirit is affected.
Actually, you don't. You get more feeling when you're next to people.
Okay,
right?
well,
Yeah.
and
But
if
it's the next best thing.
Yeah, and if I may just add, I know I've been in contact with several other churches on island, and a lot of people are asking how they're able to make their tithing now. Because you obviously can't pass around the collection plate because of social distancing. But
maybe they need to get a PayPal or.
That's exactly what they're doing. Thank you for bringing. Yeah, there are certain churches who are considering PayPal. You can do like a Patreon account because then Patreon is, for those of you guys who don't know, like Patreon, you can not only make like a one-time donation, you can also set up like a recurring thing. So you can say, I would like to donate to my church $15 a month, but we might see that come up in the very near future because a lot of the churches right now, they're just trying to give their congregations more than ever. People need their church.
Right. And so the national toll-free number, it's 1-800-961-9848.
Does that spell something? 98. I'm going to figure it out.
1-800-961-9848.
Let's get Dr. Felix Cabrera on the line here. Of course, Dr. Cabrera is part of the governor's Physicians Advisory Group. Good morning, doctor, and thank you so much for taking our call.
Good morning, Chris.
Sabrina here as well. We just kind of wanted to follow up. You made the presentation a couple days ago. I don't like that you're right, but we are seeing the numbers that you kind of said that we would.
Yeah, and so we so far are seeing it again that the data is still not as robust as we would like to make more accurate predictions, but there's enough information there to show that we are still essentially on the same curve, and that our efforts are still very much needed throughout the public to be strictly adherent to the governor's orders and to really take this seriously.
Yeah, it's so disappointing when you still go out there and you see so many people that are still out and about, and you're right, not following the governor's directive to stay home.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm trying to figure out what else can we do.
Well, we could send the soldiers out in the streets. That's what we could do. I think that would really send a good message.
Yeah, and we had a discussion about that during our last conversation about tanks in the streets and so forth. But I think at the very minimum a presence, in terms of even if it's not just the National Guard, but even just our patrol. Our GPD's patrol, but they're also limited in numbers and they have their own adjusted protocols as well.
Right.
So that's something that we would understand. I was just getting updated on my news on Reuters this morning, and India, oh my goodness, they're using switches, they're spanking people in the public, literally. With
I support that. I support that. I'm big. That's executive order. Let's do it, Gov.
Yeah, and not just that, but then they're like making some of it's not that cool, but they're making them do squats or do push-ups as punishment for being in the streets. And that seems excessive, and there's can be a lot of debate on that, but it's but they themselves are taking it extremely seriously. If you can imagine, because of the sheer number of citizens they have and the lack of testing and medical facilities they have there, that there's a delay in what they're seeing compared to the rest of the world, but it could get very, very serious there very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Doc, there was a thing in the Joint Information Center release here that Sabrina,
that the medical operations team issues an important medical advisory as a result of the accelerating numbers of positive cases. It says consider yourself possibly exposed if you recently traveled or attended any mass gatherings such as church, fiesta, small parties, or gatherings within the past 14 to 30 days.
Yeah, and again, that just really emphasized the blanket statement that everybody has to assume that everybody else has it, and to be cautious of that, and also to assume that you have it, or that you are a likely person who can spread this to the vulnerable and the sick people, and that's in particular the younger generation, that they are the ones that are the most dangerous at this point. So I think that's what that really highlights, and it just gives people more of way to kind of view themselves, because that pretty much describes everybody, right? In one way or the other.
Yeah, good job.
So, yeah, but the one of the things that I was able to listen to a little bit when Dr. Tom Shea was on earlier, and he's absolutely right. That this virus, what it does is that it preys on what makes us human. It preys on our most valued social and cultural values, and it uses that and it weaponizes that. And that it takes away what we do to connect as humans, and as a way to defeat it, but rather it uses it as a way to spread it. So so it's tough, and everyone I know is having a tough time with this. I myself am, with my own family, and not being able to see them and interact with them the way I want to, and I can't wait to do again. But it's something that I'm making the personal sacrifice because I know how important it is. And as I said this over and over, I would never ask the public or any of my patients to do something that I wouldn't do for myself or my own family.
I noticed, earlier we did try to connect with you, but you mentioned that you were in a conference call with the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Is there anything that you can share, or even just generically speaking, their involvement in Guam's COVID containment?
Yeah, so I was part of a group that we were listening into the call, not necessarily a main participant of it, but what it was it was a conference call throughout all the main areas throughout the Pacific, so including Hawaii, of course, the CNMI, American Samoa, and so them giving their status reports of where things are. So it was very, very helpful to listen in on that, and then kind of understand what the status is for them and what their needs are. And of course, a lot of it mirrors each other, but you can only say so many things during a phone call. So what they choose to say is actually very, very, very important. I've been just yesterday. I was also in contact with Dr. John Tadella, who's the chief medical officer for the hospital in Saipan, and he's also the advisor to the governor for in their readiness and their preparedness. And so, and he and I have been just discussing in terms of the challenges and what are the things that we're learning here, in particular for Guam, and how that might, apply, and how they might be able to be more proactive in the CNMI as well.
And in the CNMI, they don't have any confirmed cases there. And that I'm glad you mentioned that, because there was something that Tomas Manglotnia, he's been following what's happening in the CNMI, and he called us, and it was the first that he heard that tests were conducted or sent to Guam and repackaged to be sent off island.
Right.
And that we couldn't do the testing for them here.
And so what he was able to find out was that Guam is actually designated as the test center for I think the region. I'm not sure if it's Micronesia or what region it is, but tests should have been done on island here.
Can you confirm that? Is that the case?
Well, I'll tell you what I do know. And so in terms of the so yes, they themselves have also they have the same PCR machine, the Gene Expert, as both public health and also at GRMC has. But again, we're waiting for the kits for that. They're also getting their ABI 7500, which is from the CDC, but that's yet to run. So until that happens, and with the timeline for that is it's really up in the air. Guam is the designated center for where they will be sending their samples, and they have sent samples, but Guam Public Health is still using the same criteria to and prioritizing their samples based on the details of the patient that is being sampled. And so it meets the same in terms of how they triage and who's high risk and who gets to be tested. So it doesn't. So in the end, it's not like Guam gets first priority for those tests. If there's a very sick patient in Saipan that they absolutely need to know, because it will really change the whole management of not just that patient but the entire hospital, then that gets prioritized as well. And so. So that's currently the situation. I am not aware of Guam sending further those samples away. In fact, Guam Public Health has not done any of that. That they've kept them in the queue, so to speak. And with these new guidelines that they put on for the rest of the medical community in terms of better understanding of the priority of testing, they've actually been able to get more caught up on their backlog of tests, even those in the medium and even lower priorities, is my understanding.
Wow,
and I think that was reported yesterday.
Doc, we spoke with Lillian this morning, and you're talking about the priority testing. She said that the limited priority testing for the people at GMH, that GMH is everyone that fits in those categories has been tested.
Yeah, and that's my understanding. And then again, because they also have a number of samples from the community clinics as well, so those are all put in the queue. And so the CNMI, they're also having, because there's limited cargo flights that they can have, basically the United flights, and my understanding is that that's actually going to be reduced further, and so then that's going to limit their ability to send samples to us. And so they're looking at other options, including potentially Star Marianas to assist with their ability to send.
We could fire up the Suckman too if we need to. Doc, no, and I got a lot of friends in Saipan, so we kind of wanted to ask. They haven't had a confirmed case yet, but and I know you probably have many relatives and colleagues there as well in the NMI. What is the thinking of the doctors there? Do they believe that the COVID-19 has already been spread around, and that we just don't have a finger on it because of the testing capabilities?
Yeah, and so for those not aware, that I'm actually from Saipan myself, born and raised. I do have a vast majority of my family still on Saipan as well, and I communicate with them frequently, as well as my physician colleagues there. And yeah, so the sense, and I'm very happy to hear, especially amongst the physicians, is that they are assuming that it's there, and that it's been there, and that they're and right now they're being extremely proactive in terms of what they're doing to take precautions, which is, I think, very, very good. But there's there's still a sense that the public is not taking it as seriously because there isn't yet that first positive that's confirmed. So there is so if in a sense that that puts their testing samples in a different priority level because of their overall public health safety, is how I would view it. And I wanted to share this, and I actually did. When we spoke, gosh, it feels like forever ago, but I guess that was 2 days ago when I was on air, and I listened back in. An hour later, there was you guys were doing a beautiful tribute for Auntie Doring, and I left a comment there, and it's something I had said multiple times, and that Auntie Doring, who for those who aren't aware, was our first COVID death here in Guam, is that her death actually, I believe, very strongly saved many, many lives. And it's because it brought a different reality to this disease. She allowed us it brought us a face to the disease, in terms of somebody that we can relate to, that a lot of people relate to, and it sounds like a lot of people love very much. I've never had the privilege of meeting her, but she sounded like a wonderful woman, and of course, my mom on the side starts texting me, like, "Oh yeah, I know Auntie Dawn. She was," and then of course I had to show how I'm related to her somehow, and so she went to the lineage of how, yeah, and so
right.
your distant cousin was married to her, and blah, and so. But they really made it very, very real, and it brought us our sense of community, and I think that was so important. And yes, we're not going to be able to mourn her in our usual customary values and practices, but I think that we're like any other culture, we evolve, and just the outpouring on social media is just a beautiful part, and it really helps. That really I think helps people take this much more seriously. The more lives are going to be saved, and I'm forever grateful for her for what she's sacrificed for us.
I think I saw that comment, Doc, and I read your bio. I know you're from Saipan, and that's why I kind of wanted to ask you, because I know you got the connects there, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm pretty sure like they're calling you all the time, and so we just kind of wanted to get your take on it, because we're talking with Tomas. But he's taking it seriously. Our friend Tomas Manglotny, who's done some reporting for us, he's not leaving the apartment he's in. So he's gathering information over the phone, and that's why we kind of wanted to ask you, what are the doctors there in that MI saying?
Yeah, so far, at least the ones that I've heard from, I'm happy to hear about that. And I'll be honest, I would expected nothing less from them because there's some really, really great physicians there, and Saipan's very lucky to have them.
When will the FDA waived test kits be on island? Do you know anything about that, Doc?
I still don't know. I was actually trying to look for an update this morning, and we still don't have a specific update on that.
I did want to follow up, and when we talked last time, we were talking about whether or not the military had to, report to the government of Guam about their cases of COVID.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, that afternoon a question was asked about 4, and then the military denied it, and then yesterday it was we have 4, confirmed cases, and they're coming from the USS Theodore Roosevelt. I wanted to ask, because people are concerned, and can you tell us how concerned should we be if the military decides that they're going to fly out soldiers, more sailors from Theodore Roosevelt, or even pull into Apra Harbor or wherever? How concerned should we be?
That's a good question, and what I think is I'm reassured by is that the military here is, there's still some, especially when you're not on base. Of course, they're following what the governor's orders are, the executive orders. In particular, they themselves have some other of their, for example, for U.S. Naval Hospital and their physicians who are returning to island, that they are also undergoing quarantine, even though they're active duty. And so that's something that they are taking seriously, and they are complying from that standpoint. And so I don't know more of that detail. And I'm not currently involved in that. So I don't want to stir up anything that accidentally. But my understanding is that if they are mission essential, and if they are not having symptoms, that I think they will enter the typical protocol that any essential healthcare provider would enter in, so that there's a proper tracking. And if there's any symptoms that form, that they're immediately pulled. But of course, when working, that they would have full protective equipment that's very strict with additional precautions. And if they are able to do any part of their work via telemedicine, then that's going to be the first option.
Mm-hmm. All right, Doc. Well, did you have anything else for Dr. Cabrera?
No, I just want to thank you for being accessible, Doc. And,
wait, I did have more to ask Dr. Cabrera. I just wanted to give you the opportunity. I wanted to get back to the phone call.
Thanks for
the phone call with FEMA, the listen in, I guess you could say, right? And you were talking about how other areas, I guess, within this region had reported, what's happening in their communities. And how does Guam compare to well, I know Sinai, they don't have any, but you said American Samoa, and I mean, the challenges that we face, are they pretty much the same, or are we facing more severe challenges given the fact that we've got 37 confirmed cases and 4 from the military?
Well, I would say that this is the one situation where we don't necessarily want to be ahead of the curve, but the reality is that we are. And it just happens to be that because we're the hub of Micronesia and this region, and so that comes with the territory, literally. And so I think that our lessons learned here, and we're learning a lot, and I think it's extremely important that we learn just as much about not what we're doing good, but what we're doing wrong, and what we're making mistakes, and be very quick to admit it, be okay about it, be very, very very forgiving to everybody else, because everybody's working extremely hard. Tensions are extremely high, and people are becoming a little bit more territorial, so to speak, and silos are being brought up. But we're really trying to preach the main message that if you focus only on your own efficiencies and your own department's efficiencies, you make everybody else inefficient. But if everyone focuses on service to each other, service to other departments and other facilities, then you make everybody efficient, and then in the end you're more efficient. So the more that we can be more patient as we get very, very a lot of people are getting very close to burning out, if not already. But if we take a deep breath and really understand that, I think that's extremely important. And I'm speaking not only to my brothers and sisters in the healthcare fields, but I think in every aspect of life here on Guam, and that we this is more so than ever. We have to come together, and we cannot split apart, because that will actually lead to our defeat if we don't continue to work together.
Doc, I just wanted to ask, being a part of the physicians advisory group, I know you guys are in close conversation, and during the first press conference where the governor had showed her hand and said that we're going to extend this emergency, we're going to extend the mandatory social isolation, she had alluded to making releasing further guidance for businesses. I asked her a question about the banks. Because, with the banks open limited hours, what we're seeing is a lot of people trying to go to the bank or whatever, and it's creating crowds. And so she said that there might be a point where she's going to just tell them to close all the way. So what I wanted to ask was... banking. Yeah, online banking. But do you think that the governor is going to kind of re-examine some of the exceptions for businesses and maybe release further guidance and maybe put out more closures so that we can... do more to flatten the curve?
I would, I definitely can't comment on what she, would do and what I think is important in terms of that details. That's definitely outside of my field. But I think the reality is that the more and more that we see that the public is not heeding our warning, that the more restrictions are probably going to get placed, and rightfully so, because of how serious this is, and if that's what it's going to take, then she'll have to make that very tough decision.
Right. Okay. And does it? I mean, your opinion is that we should do those things already, right?
Well, I think that I don't have eyes on that myself, and I don't know the extent of how bad things are within the in terms of gatherings in that aspect. But it might, like I've been saying from especially this week in pushing that it's not just enough that everybody stay home, that even within the home that we have to do everything to protect our elderly, keep our young away from our elders, our manamku. In particular, we have about 800 dialysis patients here on the island. If they all got COVID and they all flooded the hospitals, I mean, you can just imagine what that kind of scene would look like. And that's the problem, that as much as I don't have eyes on the banks, for example, the public does not have eyes on the hospital, and what we're battling there. And so it's very important that everybody understand that part, and that you may not be seeing it, but it's very real, and it's something that is our probably our greatest immediate threat.
Okay, so give us a visual then of what's happening at GMH, if you could describe.
I in between both GRMC and GMH, because again, I think that we have to really look at both all the time, because you can't look at one without the other. That you're seeing, that we, first of all, you're dealing with a workforce that is already thin to begin with, and now even further thin because of additional hours. Some of them not able to work because they're either have been exposed, or they have other priorities in terms of their families that they must attend to. So you're already looking at a strained system. You're seeing patients that are going through, and not necessarily just by the nature of having to put on additional protective equipment, that it's not usual care at that point for a lot of these patients, and so because of that, we're constantly having to make adjustments and make decisions about one thing bad versus something that's a little bit worse, and trying to understand that and what that means. And so it does feel like it's it always feels like it's organized chaos, in both hospitals and in both emergency rooms. But it goes up a little bit. It's definitely a level up at this point.
Right. Well, thank you, Dr. Cabrera, and I think that's all the more reason why people need to stay home. It's not just for your own safety, but it's also you're not overburdening the system.
Yeah,
over
absolutely.
At the hospitals.
Right.
Oh, can I make this one plea to the public?
Yes.
And this is, I think, something we always talk about crowdsourcing help. This is one thing the public can absolutely be very helpful for the people of Guam. And if you are a family member of a healthcare worker, if you are able to help them with their child care, and any way that can get them back on the front lines and help them come back to work. That is a tremendous help, and we really need the public's help in this manner. And again, still following the precautions we said. So this doesn't mean that now grandma starts watching the kids so that mom can go to work. But that's not the right solution. But if auntie can watch, that's not a high risk person, then that's something that we would really ask the public's help with, because it's not just the hospitals, it's all the other clinics. Everyone's feeling the same pinch right now and the same burn. And so that's one way the public can really help, is let's please all step up for our healthcare workers and help their families out so that they can get to work. In the same way as we would support our troops in the war and support their families, we ask the public to do the same for all the healthcare workers.
Thanks for that, Doc. I mean, that's one of those things that I didn't even think about. You know what I mean? But you're right, daycare centers, non-essential, and so people got to step up.
Yes.
We're gonna put that out for you, Doc. We're gonna put that on the news today.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Oh, thank you for everything that you're doing.
Okay, all right. Well, you take care. Thank you. You guys are doing an absolutely great job informing the public, and keep up the strong work.
Thank you very much, Dr. Felix Cabrera, of course, from the Governor's Physicians Advisory Group. A lot of info there, very sobering, I
know. Even from the last time we talked to him, I was like, oh, man. Now I'm like, oh, my God.
Where could we get an optimistic doctor?
No, but he's keeping it real, and that's what we need.
Yeah, definitely. And, we're making light of it because we feel like kind of laughter is the best medicine, but at the same time, that is what you guys need to hear.
Yeah, and you need to take this serious. I mean, I don't know how much more we can stress that you have to stay home, not just, again, for your own safety and your family's safety, but the people at the hospital and the clinics that are overworked. Come on.
See, you guys are making Sabrina use her mom voice. What are you guys doing out there?
I'm touching my face. Here I go.
I know, God, it's all falling apart. 9:22, we'll do news. And, we have a special treat for the last word today. We're actually going to do the last song. I was able to work out, we're going to do a live performance from one of my favorite local groups that's coming out to close the show here, containing COVID. KUAM News Takeover, Guam's favorite, I-94. Good morning.
KUAM News Updates are brought to you by...
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD. Be healthy. Be informed with IT.
Been at home quarantine, and he's doing a bunch of different cool little live broadcasts, if you want to call it, from his apartment.
From his home quarantine.
With his
home
cats.
isolation.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Axel. That's the one I remember. Axel. And you know, when we did a whole story with him on Gain, you know, I am allergic to cats, but I sucked it up and I went in there and I did an interview with him, and then I could feel it. I was like, okay, time to go.
Wait, can I just ask, how exactly are you allergic to cats? Because my parents, my father was allergic to cats.
This is what we call a trademark Jason left field combo.
My dad was allergic to cats. My mom is allergic to cats. So we've never had them around. So I don't even know if I am. Mm-hmm. But how do your allergies, like, how do they, do you get like just...
Well, my
runny
eyes. Yeah, my throat starts to hurt. I start sneezing. My eyes are really itchy. There was a point when my eyes, they were really, really red, and then they started like I don't even know how to explain. Like they started bubbling up. It was just that bad, like the whites of my eyes. Okay,
yeah, my sister's allergic to cats.
It was terrible.
She also has asthma. Do you have asthma?
No, I don't have.
Is that
asthma.
something common to Chamorros? Because like.
Being allergic to cats.
Being allergic to cats.
Get out. Okay,
no, because
bye.
No, because so many of us are lactose intolerant, myself included.
All right, I don't know what the hell that's good. Go ask Dr. Cabrera.
What was that?
9:31. You know, we want to bring the director of Parks and Rec, Mr. John Birch, up on the show, and he's also on the Board of Education. Good morning, Mr. Birch.
Good morning, Chris.
So I guess first of all, I wanted
First
to
of all, I want to apologize on behalf of Jason for making that comment.
I don't know what he's smoking over there, but whatever it is, it's probably legal now. Mr. Birch, so I wanted to just ask, the parks, the beaches, closed. DPR staff, are you guys like going around checking on this, or what's the situation with that? Because the governor had made that development in her latest executive order that parks and beaches closed.
Yes, I'm aware of that. The governor's executive order 2020-05. Yes, I'll clarify for you. Yes, the beaches are closed. The beaches and parks are closed, and this was done in an effort to discourage large gatherings with the intent of basically slowing down the spread of the COVID-19 as it threatens to overtake our island's healthcare, which some experts estimate will be sometime next week.
Right.
I mean, you're aware, and we're all aware, we have a limited supply of physicians, nurses, and currently supplies of the basics, even the PPEs like gloves and face masks. So now, though, with the closure, this does not restrict the use of the parks and beaches by individuals or couples, such as those who want to beach walk or swim. We understand that many of us, after spending several days cooped up in our homes, many of us would experience what we might call cabin fever and feel the need to just get out of the house. If that is the case with you, we're asking you to please use your best judgment, practice social distancing, limit your contact with others. Because on Guam, most of us have large families consisting of many family units, and a small family get-together could easily exceed over 50 people.
Easily.
And to prevent the spread of the coronavirus, we're recommending strongly that you limit any family gathering to just your immediate family members or that single unit. Now, as far as I know, the governor has not officially reduced the size of gatherings to 10 people like the president has, but I've been informed that if GPD sees a gathering of 10 or more people, they will investigate, and most likely they will ask the group to disperse.
Right.
And the closures of the beaches and parks only affect the beaches and parks that are under the control of the government of Guam. They do not affect federal beaches and parks.
Right.
So,
let me ask you something, John.
Yeah.
EPAN First Beach, I don't know if that's in you guys' inventory, but driving by there Sunday, I see 5-6 people swimming. I mean, is that okay?
Yes, that's fine. We're recommending people, practice social distancing, which they say is about 6 feet. So 5 or 6 people, the police won't stop by. They won't interfere with you. Many people need to get out of their homes. We ask everyone to please, for the most part, please stay home.
Right.
We have limited healthcare professionals and supplies, and staying home is crucial to limiting the spread of the coronavirus. And so we can't emphasize enough how important it is for us to limit our social contact. And so we're just asking the people out there to help us to help you use your better judgment, and by all means, practice social distancing. Stay home by all means. Stay safe. Take care of yourself and your family. But if you feel like going out to the beach and the parks, as long as you keep the group small, like singles or couples, and you play safe, then it's fine. So yes, I don't see anyone interfering with you if you go out and follow those type of rules. We do have our lifeguards that are out there. They're basically patrolling and keeping track, and if they do see large numbers of people, then they will, of course, inform the authorities, most likely Homeland Security and the Guam Police. And the same with GVB. They have their visitor safety officers. They're doing the same thing. So we do have people out there monitoring the beaches. Plus, GPD does monitor and rove around them during the evening hours when these other people are not on duty.
John, do you worry at all that it's a little bit of a mixed message when we have the parks and beaches being closed, but then there's that kind of, and I understand, people are going to do what they're going to do and that we want them to be able to go outside, but I feel like on the one hand we're saying it's closed, but then on the other hand we're like, 5 to 6 people, 6 feet apart, not closed, it's okay.
Yes, because what we found was on the weekend, like you said, there was a whole bunch of people. I went around checking personally myself. And I saw some areas where they had a lot of people, having parties. To them, it's like a start of a spring break. So we have to close them down and close some of the gates in the more used areas, more used beaches. But we also realize there are people that are following the rules and are protecting themselves and their families. And you have one or two people out there. Where are you going to go? As long as you're not holding on to handrails or carts or things like that, then you're fine. And if you're out in the open area, on the beach in the sand or in the parks, not touching any of the what do you call it, the park equipment there, then you're pretty safe. But we don't. But if you do have a lot of people out there and you're in contact with them, then definitely you're going to be spreading the virus.
Right.
But for the most part, we're encouraging people to please stay home, not go out. We're saying that, for those, we have some people that they just can't keep still. So we're saying, okay, if you're one of that group and you want to take a big chance, try to protect the rest of us and limit very much your social contacts out there.
What worries me, John, is you're going to get one of these knuckleheads that think everything's cool. They're going to go to the beach, and they're going to get swept over the reef, and then we got to activate half a GFD when they should be out there, worrying about COVID-19.
Yes.
That's why I feel like we're just going to close the parks and the beaches. You know what? Let's just close it. You guys want to get sun? Go in your backyard.
That might happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but the way we're going after looking at things that have occurred elsewhere in the States and in other countries, things are slowly being shut down, and they're being shut down in what we see like in increments, right? And it's getting more and more severe as more cases pop up. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the next order that might come out, or something might be coming out down the pipeline. But as of today, that's where we stand. I hate to see that we get to that point, but it looks like if things don't stop, or if we can't blunt or stop the spread of the virus, that this is something that eventually will occur on our island. And we live on an island. We should be able to stop this pretty much. We should be able to close things down real fast. And that's a call being made upper levels with the health professionals that are giving directions to us to carry out. So I'm just making sure that the personnel I have working for DPR are safe, and that they're doing the best that they can out there. So we do have people out there, because DPR is what they call one of the semi-essential agencies. We have park rangers that have been assigned over to GPD, and we have people taking care of our parks, maintaining, because some people are still going out there. Not just regular folks. We have other people that basically live in the parks overnight, and they trash it. So I have to have people out there picking the trash to prevent any other kind of spread of any other type of viruses. And so we have those people that are on duty right now, monitoring the parks and maintaining them, and any other area that we have control over. So I see where you're coming from, and I just hope we don't reach that point where we do 100% shutdown like they've done in Italy, where people are mandated to stay home and only allowed outside if they have certain passes or paperwork that they filled out. I hope we don't get to that point, but if we can't stop this, I wouldn't be surprised if it eventually reaches that.
Well, thank you so much, John Birch. We got a run. There was an address from the governor that we're going to try and get out here. Thank you, John.
Well, thank you.
Take care. Be safe.
Of course.
You too. You guys take care. Be safe, and encourage everyone to please stay home.
You got it. John Birch, he's the acting director of Parks and Rec. Also on the education board. Maybe next time we talk to him, we'll get him to put on his education board hat. Mm-hmm. But the governor did make an update this morning, so we want
morning message.
Want to play this up for you guys here. Let's play this for you guys here right now.
Good morning. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak to you. Last night I received information from our community CDC from Public Health that the results that came back for the test they did last night was 5 tests positive. So our total number now, local total number, is 37. Again, this just stresses the point that we need to continue on with our very stringent and very aggressive actions that we're doing. staying home is really going to flatten the curve. It is going to it is going to make us stronger in combating this virus. So again, I ask your support, which you have. I also want to say that we are a very loving community, and we are a very generous and caring community. And the fact that we can't hug our grandmothers, and we can't have our grandchildren, their grandchildren, play with them is certainly, for me at least, very painful. But we have to go through this for a short period of time, because really distancing ourselves and social isolation is what's going to win our battle with this coronavirus. I also wanted to say that I was informed by JRM that there are 4 sailors now who are positive, and they are sailors from the USS Theodore Roosevelt, which is out in the waters. They had air medvac them, and they are now at Naval Hospital isolated. The military has its own infection control protocol, which is similar, very similar to ours, as we all come from the guidance of the Communicable Disease Center federally. So we need to, again, be very cognizant that this virus is still within our midst, and that we need to make sure we protect ourselves and our people. I do have some good news, and that is a recent piece of legislation which has been passed in the Senate and now working its way through the House, and the president is very anxious to sign it, which is a big stimulus package that would help relieve some of our financial burdens as a result of this coronavirus. So in one nutshell, we are going to have 111.8 million that will be given directly to Guam to help with coronavirus expenses and so forth. This is on top of other federal programs that we are also eligible for. We're increasing SNAP, Medicaid. We are going to have some unemployment benefits. We're still combing through the piece of legislation, and we'll have better details as we move along, and I will be sure to inform you of what those details are. I also would like to let you know that I have submitted a letter to President Trump to declare Guam a major disaster, and as a result of that, we will again be able to access more federal monies. Please be assured that our businesses are going to be assisted. I will make sure that that happens. Our government services will continue, as we have to continue our government sources. We are working very closely with the business people, all community sectors, religious, nonprofit organizations. Again, I know it's a big ask to ask, but it is for the love of our people and our island. Thank you.
That was Governor Lulian Guerrero, her morning message to the community. She did say that she did send her letter over to President Trump to declare Guam a major disaster area, following suit with what New York governor has already done. She talked about the package that's before Congress, and it is likely to pass. They did reach a deal. The Senate and White House negotiators reached a deal on a rescue package to inject nearly $2 trillion into the economy. It comes as President Trump is looking to get Americans in many parts of the country out of the house and back to work. It includes a direct cash payment of up to $1,200 for most working Americans, $3,000 for the average family. It also expands unemployment insurance from 26 to 39 weeks for most people, and it boosts benefits by $600 a week through July. The plan contains nearly $400 billion in loans and grants to small businesses to keep workers on the payroll, plus another $500 billion in loans for major industries like the airlines. And it also provides more than $130 billion for the nation's healthcare providers. And as you heard from the governor, it appears that we're looking at $111.8 million to be given to Guam. She's also working on emergency SNAP assistance, Medicaid, and employment benefits for residents. Again, that was her morning message to the people of Guam.
All right. Thanks. 9:46. We're coming back. We're going to try and close out the show. I want to squeeze in a couple more calls.
Okay.
We'll see what we can do. It's containing COVID, the KUAM News Takeover, Guam's favorite, I-94. Good morning.
Hafa everyone, Nestor Licanto here, and our guest today is Mr. Cos Endo, who came up with this really cool idea, and I'll ask him to share that, but it's called hashtag support food to go Guam. Hafa day, Cos.
Hafa day, Nestor. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, sir?
Okay, considering the circumstances, we're bunkered down, but, modern technology allows us to feel like we're just on a long plane ride.
Yeah. So let me ask you to explain how you came up with the idea for this social media push that you're doing, and tell us a little bit about what it's about.
Sure. I've got a lot of friends out there who own restaurants. Some are operators, some actually own the restaurants themselves. And during this time, they're having a tough time. And for me, I usually cook at home. I'm a homebody now. I'm getting up there, so I don't really go out as much as I used to. But I said, hey, during this time, they need some support. So I decided to maybe every lunch head out for to go. The problem was nobody was really updating their pages. And, they were just too busy. They were shorthanded, and I couldn't find any information. So my daughter works at one of the places, and she said, hey, why don't you come and get some lunch at Moz? And so I did. And I started thinking, what would be nice is to have a Facebook page so that everybody can sort of crowdsource and put on information of where they went to eat, and not necessarily provide critical review, but just simply say, hey, they're open and they're servicing, and just really allow the customers to help the restaurants keep going during this period.
Yeah. What's the response been?
It's been pretty crazy. It's crazy nice. I'm just the administrator, and I try not to be the voice of it, other than to share this information. And so when I started it about 2 days ago, I just invited a few friends and asked them to share it with their network. And I think today, just about 2 days ago, started it. It's at 2,200 people. So it's quite nice to see that kind of robust reaction.
Yeah. And so how can a restaurant get on your social media program there?
Well, it's really easy because it's a public group. So that means anybody can join. And they don't even have to ask my permission to get on there. They just simply join. And basically the community will sort of police itself. I set up a few ground rules so that people play nice, and, obviously during this period, some people are, some places aren't going to be as well stocked, or maybe they don't have the manpower. It's not going to be business as usual. So, it's tempting to, vent out frustrations for some people, but we're keeping all of that out. I've asked our members to just simply stay positive. If you have a problem with the restaurant or the eatery, to contact them directly. And I just immediately delete any kind of negative posts, because that wasn't the purpose of the page. The restaurants are having a hard time as it is, providing day-to-day service and keeping people employed. And the last thing they need is to have to defend themselves on social media. So, if they have a problem, they can directly contact the business owners. Otherwise, it's just really a forum to share where you can get food, how much, what's the menu available, so forth and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you know, food and being able to share a meal out there is very much a part of the fabric of our community. And having been a food establishment owner yourself, you know how tough that business can be and how thin those margins are.
Yeah, and it's some people have criticized it, maybe misinformed. They say it's dangerous. I mean, the world is dangerous, right? It's always been dangerous, and we're just being a little bit more careful now. But CDC has said you can't consume the virus. In other words, you can't get it by eating it. The stomach will kill it naturally. People just need to be more careful. If they're going to go for a Payless run, then they can go for a sandwich run. It's the idea is to get in, get out, and a lot of these guys are doing curbside and they're taking credit card information off the phone. So very little touch points, I would say. And until the government says no more takeout either, why not support the businesses who are trying to survive?
Yeah, and from what I'm hearing on the national media, it's a tough time across the country. Restaurants are trying to hang on as much as they can, but unfortunately, a lot of those businesses may have to close. And so, whatever help that we can provide.
Buenas and day, everyone. My name is Joe Garrido. Sunday morning, I got a text message from a firefighter asking if I can create a song for the first responders, medical workers, and everyone else that has to work during this time, because they too have to go home to their families. At the end of the text message, it said, because music is powerful. And again, I agree, music is very powerful. And that's the reason why I created this song, was because I was asked to, and in hopes for peace and understanding during this time, I wanted to create this song. So if you are one of the frontliners here on our island protecting our people, I want to personally thank you. And I just pray that the Lord brings restoration upon those that are sick and their families. And I pray for safety upon our first responders and those working the front line. So I hope everyone enjoys the song.
Tao Guam Ai tao Phan mà nó rút rút Pogo na momento Phan đi mu popa Janatan hulu Gisat basyonta As Jesus Cristo Ay gusto Ay sana Na sofu Itaw mo gitetsu Masaya enfermera Tao wafri polisia Na sucia Nagagihaw gifionia Na panhomlu At susihan ni man malongo Don't protegi Fambaguun itanu Don't protege Iman omku
A little tribute song for the first responders, 9:56.
And we want to just thank all of everyone that's responding to this. From, I know on our Facebook Live, one of the comments was that wanted to acknowledge the solid waste employees, also security guards that are out there on the front lines, cashiers, so many people out there working during this time when really all of us, we all need to stay home and follow the governor's directive, because instead of the cases going down, we just saw 5 positive cases.
There's no downward
overnight.
spiral of positive results that's happening. So
We can all hope that Dr. Felix Cabrera is wrong, but right now
it doesn't look like he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to shout out to everyone working hard at the governor's office, the Physicians Advisory Group, everybody at Office of Homeland Security, Civil Defense, the Joint Information Center. I just want to reiterate that, we're all in this together.
That's right. Also, if you missed it just a little while ago, the governor did announce that she has sent a letter to President Trump to declare a major disaster for Guam. And she was reviewing and still combing through the details of the rescue package that's before Congress, that $111.8 million looks to be given to Guam. And so we're waiting for the president, I believe, to sign that.
Yeah, so that's at 9:57. There's going to be a press conference today, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's their daily briefing now. It's official. At least that's what I was told, that the governor will be having 1 o'clock daily briefings. I'm not sure if the rules are still going to be the same.
What do you think of that, Bree? The rules so yesterday, the first Zoom press conference, they gave each media one question, one follow-up question, and they did that for 3 rounds. But yesterday, we were told they were short on time, and that each media would get one question and then a follow-up.
Yeah, I think what we need to do is maybe create a WhatsApp chat group with all the media, and then kind of like figure out, like, okay, what are you gonna ask? I'll ask this, so we have everything that needs to be covered, because
I think that's
just 2 questions is not enough.
Yeah, it's kind of already happening. Is that we're seeing a lot of, we're usually competitive. I mean, it is a competitive business, but we're seeing some of our media colleagues are sharing these frustrations.
Right. Yeah.
And so, I mean, really, it is because with all this information coming out, a lot of it requires a lot of clarification, a lot of follow-up questioning, and so we definitely appreciate the press conferences.
Yeah,
we definitely
do. You can watch them live as well on our Facebook page.
But that's why it's important. We feel it's important to have a platform like this where we can give these officials, time to call in and, hey, tell us what you think the public needs to know. And again, putting my call out to the governor. I messaged her the night before we did the first show to please give us a call, send her the number. You still haven't heard from her, and we get to ask the questions that we can during those press conferences. But again, we're doing the work of our listeners and our audience, and they kind of want to hear from the governor on this show. So we'll work on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a rapidly evolving situation.
It's so rapidly evolving. 9:59. We're KUAM-FM in Hagatni, Guam. For Sabrina Salas Matanani, I'm Chris Barnett. This has been Containing COVID. Adios.
Stay home.
Stay home.
Make sure to check